First things first, and I really want all of you to hear me. I am aware that good fan fiction exists, or to be more accurate, I know that good fan fiction is possible, and I know that fan fiction in itself is a neutral thing, like all of fiction, and can be good or bad depending on the writer.
Oh, so I guess the video's over then, right? Fan fiction is a tool, it's a neutral tool. It can be good, it can be bad. So I guess that's it, right? I guess that's the video.
Another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. No filter, I got no filter, no filter.
I know that there are probably people out there, or at least there were at some point, who wrote genuinely
How much you pay me? I pay you in, spending time with you.
excellent stories set in worlds of someone else's creation. I know that it is possible to write good fan fiction. However, in recent years, despite any outlying works of alleged genius, and they are outlying and not the norm, fan fiction has developed a manifestly particular kind of image and reputation. The aesthetics of fan fiction, if you'll allow me, have become a very specific sort. And that image and those aesthetics have broken internet containment and entered mainstream literature and stories.
That's not true. Again, that depends on what market you're talking about. In Japan, actually, again, fan fiction has a very positive reputation, and it has a reputation of new talent, right? People who take existing works and put them in different directions and put on a different style even of drawing on it. It's definitely not viewed like people very happily go to those conventions and buy them. There's nothing, there's not a negative stigma put on it.
When I say fan fiction in a crowded room, 90% of the people in that room immediately receive the mental image of the same general type of storytelling, which, by the way, is not a very flattering one. Regardless of what you personally might think about fan fiction, the community and the majority of known works, and crucially the influence of fan fiction-ism has had on the rest of the storytelling media, has a very, very specific philosophy and aesthetic. Singling out your own personal favorite works cannot change that fact. When I made my little jab at fan fiction in my video on the rise of smut in fiction, many people came crawling out of the woodwork to send me various strongly worded messages about how wrong I was because, that one particular XYZ fanfic was good, actually, and because not all fan fiction is smutty, actually. Listen, I don't really care. I get it. Some of you like to read or write fan fiction, and some fan fiction is, to you, worth your time. But I'm talking today about...
Oh, okay. So basically, she decided that the entire medium of writing fan fiction is bad because she just decided so, and she doesn't care for criticism. Even if a lot of people go to her and say, hey, fan fiction is not like that, she sees those as outliers, and also she doesn't care. Great start, okay? Great start. An amazing start to your critique.
About the broad idea of what fan fiction generally has come to embody and mean in...
Who cares about specifics when I can just generalize and, paint an entire type of writing in a single stroke, right? Who cares? I can just generalize, flatten, reduce, and be done with it. That's such simple analysis. It is is easy to do.
Current year. So if you like fan fiction, that's your business. But before you get all fired up and start filling the comment section with angry remarks about how it's, not all fan fiction or whatever, try to take a step back and honestly observe the overall...
Yeah, try to, before you say that fan fiction is not crap, try to take a step back and accept my view on it, okay? Just try to take a step back and realize that mine is the only correct view on the matter. There you go. That's called stepping back.
reputation that fan fiction has to the general reading public. Another
Yeah,
quick
I don't care about the reputation that fan fiction has to the general reading public, but it does. Just because a thing has a reputation to a general public, it doesn't make it fact. That's some lazy analysis, if I can even call it that. Just appealing to what the general opinion is on a thing. That doesn't mean anything. Like, I hate to go to that example, but when most people were against gay marriage, does that mean that gay marriage was bad? Because the general opinion, the general consensus of an average person was that gay marriage was bad? That is such a stupid argument.
Side note, a lot of people seem to really appreciate the list of additional information that I provided with my video about reading education. This particular topic, fan fiction, is not something a lot of people outside those communities are going to know a lot about, and I spent months doing research. So to help,
You spend months doing research. Oh my God. I wonder what it even means for this person to do research.
I've put together a small companion document on my website that provides links to some relevant studies and data, as well as more information on fanfiction in general, and also some of the more disturbing fanfiction content, scandals, and other issues of interest to outside observers who genuinely want to educate themselves.
That is stupid. We call this the poisoning of the well, okay? It's like saying books in general are bad. Because, did you know, I've included all those disgusting and disturbing stories about book authors,
Some time ago, I said to a friend half as a joke that through no fault of its own, Harry Potter was about 70 to 80% responsible for the degradation of modern literature. And while that observation is still valid, I think it's far more accurate to say that the strange, unprecedented way in which Harry Potter collided with fan fiction is the real problem. In that sense, it would be more accurate to say that
Harry Potter started the negative fall of the fan fiction.
Accurate to say that this. And while that observation is still valid, I think it's far more accurate to say that the strange, unprecedented way in which Harry Potter collided with fan fiction is the real problem. In that sense, it would be more accurate to say that fan fiction is 80 to 90% responsible for the degradation of modern literature. And that statement is
God, it's such a... Okay. That statement is going to need really, really powerful justification, because I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like bullshit. And also the title says that it's and everything else, so
something I stand by. An essay I read recently, which I subsequently misplaced, observed that Harry Potter was the series that launched 1,000 ships. For those who don't know, a ship is when fans of a story will root for two characters to get into a relationship. Hence, ship. A person could be said to ship two characters, that is, hope they get together. In more modern usage, however, ship means that as far as that fan is concerned, those two characters should be together, or even are together, regardless of what the story says. And never before in history had this been as huge of an almost global fiction is valid. I think it's far more accurate to say that the strange, unprecedented way in which Harry Potter collided...
This is such weak argumentation, and I don't even know how to engage with it.
...with fan fiction is the real problem.
Shipping is not a thing that is exclusive to fan fiction writers. It's just what fans do, regardless of the existence of or non-existence of fan fiction.
In that sense, it would be more accurate to say that fan fiction is 80 to 90% responsible for the degradation of modern literature. And that statement is...
Again, that statement is so stupid that you're going to have to provide a lot of evidence, a lot of justification for that.
something I stand by. An essay I read recently, which I subsequently misplaced, I'm sorry,
And also, and everything else, the entire Western civilization.
observed that Harry Potter was the series that launched 1,000 ships. For those who don't know, a ship is when fans of a story will root for two characters to get into a relationship. Hence, ship. A person could be said to ship two characters, that is, hope they get together. In more modern usage, however, ship means that as far as that fan is concerned, those two characters should be together, or even are together, regardless of what the story says.
Okay, what does that have to do with fan fiction, though? Okay.
And never before in history had this been as huge of an almost global cultural reality as it was during the heyday of Harry Potter. In truth,
Okay.
Harry Potter did something that was entirely unheard of in history, entirely by accident. Beginning with children's books, the series became an international sensation, and what was really unusual was that the length of the series allowed it to be a constant companion to an entire generation of children. Never before in history, in quite this way, had an entire generation grown up alongside a widely beloved group of fictional children. From elementary school through high school graduation and sometimes even college, Harry Potter and co. were all there too. And due to the nature of modern society and how modern people, especially young people, engage with stories, which we'll talk more about in a minute,
Oh boy, I bet this is going to be just silly. I bet this is going to be, hello, fellow kids. I totally understand how you engage with things with my big brain.
this full absolute immersion had the most profound emotional and formative impact.
He's actually trying to gatekeep reading, like how in Roman times all books were written in Latin. It's just, it's not even gatekeep reading. She's trying to gatekeep creativity. Like creativity has to be expressed in a certain correct way. Otherwise, it ruins fiction. It ruins literature. If you think that certain characters should be together or should not be together, then you're wrong. You're expressing a negative cultural shift. You're expressing a negative way of engaging with a medium, of creating a medium. This is so ridiculous. Like the only time when I draw the line about this whole shipping thing is when fans start sending threats to the author for not making that ship happen. You know, otherwise I don't really care. I don't really care if people want or fantasize about certain characters being together. Who cares? It is silly to care, okay? It is silly to be angry that people want characters to be together and make it their head canon, okay? Or whatever.
Do you think YA literature is partly to blame for the decline in literature right now? Think fanfiction.
Also, we need to the problem with this whole premise is that this lady just makes a statement. There's a decline of literature, okay? 80% and 90% of literature has declined. She just says it as if it's fact. She has not established that there is an actual decline in literature. She has not given an example of the decline in literature. She just declared that it is happening and that fan fiction is to blame. That in itself is lazy. The very foundation of the premise is very, very lazy. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Specifically, think Twilight, which was originally
Like to me, it just reads like the West is declining. The West is on the decline. The West is on just this whole very vague. The West is what's the term that far righters always use? The West is just the fall of the West, basically. It's just a reiteration of the fall of the West, the fall of literature.
a work of Harry Potter fanfiction? Do you think E.L. James's 50 Shades of Grey is a major offender in the rise of smut in modern society? Think fanfiction. 50 Shades of Grey was originally Twilight fanfiction, and the list goes on and on and on and on forever. So yes, in a sense, Harry Potter got the ball rolling, but there's literature right now. Think fanfiction. Specifically, think Twilight, which was originally a work of Harry Potter fanfiction.
I don't know where this. How is Twilight? Wait, isn't Twilight the thing about vampires? How is that a Harry Potter fanfiction? I have no. What the? Is Twilight a Harry Potter fanfiction? No, Twilight is not a Harry Potter fanfiction. It is an original young adult vampire romance novel series written by Stephanie Meyer, first released in 2000. It's not even a fanfiction, period. Twilight is not even a Twilight is not a fanfiction, but an original novel written by Stephanie Meyer, based on a dream. It is, however, a massive source for fanfiction. It's not a Twilight is not fanfiction. Like I told you that not even is the whole premise broken, because the lady just asserts that literature has fallen, that there's a degradation of literature in general. This lady does not know what fanfiction is. Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey was originally a Twilight fanfiction, but Twilight itself is not a fanfiction, and that is what this lady claims. Also, hello, Estelle. I've noticed that this creator has also been torn apart in the President Sunday Discord. I think President Sunday reacted to this lady as well, because I think she does philosophy as well.
Do you think ELJ think Twilight, which declined in literature right now? Think fanfiction. Specifically, think Twilight, which was originally a work of Harry Potter fanfiction.
Twilight, which was originally a work of Harry Potter fanfiction. Twilight is not fanfiction. It is definitely not based on Harry Potter. Does this lady have some magic sources that just all of us don't have access to?
Do you think E.L. James's 50 Shades of Grey is a major offender in the rise of smut in modern society? Think fanfiction. 50 Shades of Grey was originally Twilight fanfiction, and the list goes on and on and on.
There you go. She just claims that Twilight was Harry Potter fanfiction, and then that fanfiction spawned another fanfiction, which was 50 Shades of Grey. But Twilight was not fanfiction.
On and on forever. So yes, in a sense, Harry Potter got the ball rolling.
There you go. Harry Potter got the ball rolling because it spawned Twilight, and Twilight spawns 50 Shades of Grey. This is completely incorrect.
Wouldn't have even been a ball to roll had we not had fanfiction. But no matter what series started it, Pandora had opened the box, the bell had been rung, etc., etc. Fanfiction was here to stay. Worse than that, fanfiction was making tangible contributions to the shape and trajectory of literature and culture. And as a result,
culture, literature. I hate it when people go with their smug presentation without any actual argumentation and say, this type of engagement with fiction is wrong, this type of engagement with fiction is correct, this type of creation of fiction is wrong, this type of creation of fiction is correct. If you create literature in this way, then it leads to degradation and degeneration. Thank you. I'm so great.
Both have suffered massively, and we're going to talk about it.
There's only one correct way to create fiction, remember that. You must not deviate from that norm, or else.
At some point, this was probably the early 2010s, I, naive, foolish, innocent, ventured onto AO3, that is Archive of Our Own, the main online fanfiction hub for the last, 15 years or so, to see what there was to see. We're going to talk more soon about what a casual traveler is likely to find when walking the highways and byways of sites like AO3. But first, I want to talk about some general observations I've made about the influence of fan fiction on popular culture and the literary world. And then
Okay, go on.
we'll break down each one at a time.
Like, I really find this difference in the viewing of fan fiction interesting.
First, fan fiction is directly responsible for the epidemic of self-insert characters and self-insert mentality that has pervaded the entirety of storytelling across all mediums. Second,
I'm going to, again, I will need evidence for this self-insert horrible epidemic in all medium, because that already, I can tell you 100% that is bullshit. That there is some epidemic of self-insert characters in the all medium in existence.
fan fiction is directly responsible for the smut apocalypse that has
How is this destroying writing? I told you, this person asserts that there's one correct way of engaging with fiction, that there's one correct way of creating fiction, and if you don't do it the correct way, quote unquote, then you're just degrading and destroying writing. Yeah. That's the premise. That is actually unironically the premise. There's only one correct way of doing things, and if you deviate from that correctness, then you contribute to the destruction of the medium. Because it's not that people should just engage in things how they want it to be, according to their vision, according to how they want their work to be. No, it has to be done in a concrete, correct way, or else. That's why it's destroying writing, according to this YouTuber. And I just reject the premise that there's this self-insert in all medium, in all fiction, that is caused by fan fiction.
devastated literature. Third,
Fan fiction, I even reject, not only do I reject the premise that self-insert characters have entered into literary world at large, I reject the premise that the majority of fan fiction is about self-insert characters. Okay? I reject that notion as well.
fan fiction is directly responsible for the meta-derivative nature of storytelling that is starting to become dominant. Related to that, meta-derivative
I have no idea what this smut apocalypse is, by the way. Luke Skywalker was a self-insert. Luke Skywalker, Luke S. Ah, that's pretty interesting.
nature of storytelling that is starting to be
I don't even know what that means. The meta-derivative nature of storytelling. I don't know what that means, and I guess we will learn. We will learn what that even means. I assume this person will get into it.
become dominant. Related to that, fan fiction is partly responsible for the overall drop
I'm actually interested in creating stories as well. I've been working on my own little project for years now. Okay? And I just don't see where this person is going with this. I don't see any. This is just, again, this is the fall of the West, but applied to literature.
in literary quality and is directly responsible for the degradation of the art of writing, including but not limited to dismal world building and one-dimensional characters.
Again, this is just throwing out a statement and treating it as fact. She has not demonstrated why the literature has degraded.
As well
There's
as
so many books out right now.
the elevation of arguably non-literary approaches to certain styles, such as the disproportionate use of present tense. The first issue
Oh my God, really?
is most definitely the most important, and we're going to approach it more broadly than mere self-insertism. Because the real issue there, the core issue, is the immense, inherently self-indulgent nature of fanfiction as it is in current year, and has been
In current year. Also, self-indulgent, I have no idea what self-indulgent means in creating fiction. I have no clue what that's supposed to mean.
for probably at least 2 or 3 decades. This aspect, self-indulgence, is the first thing I
Isn't art creation in itself inherently self-indulgent if you think about it? Emily S. I never put self-insert or imaginary characters in my fanfic. Wait, hold on. You are a fanfic creator as well? I should create... My editor has proposed to me to create a space for creatives on the Discord. And my editor is a fanfic creator. So we should maybe create this space so we could have discussions and the exchange of ideas. I made a fanfic from a sitcom. Interesting.
want to cover, mainly because it's by far the most important. It informs everything else. So what do I mean when I say that fanfiction is self-indulgent? First, let's look at the definition of self-indulgence. To indulge oneself or one's inclinations.
Okay. I'm gonna ask, what's wrong with self-indulgence? Create fanfictions together. Yeah, I think that could be a pretty interesting thing to create on the Discord, a place where people could create together and exchange ideas. Yeah. I don't know. I think actually that fanfictions are a very nice things. You know, any fanfictions that you like, any fanfiction that you decide, anything you like. Emily, anything you'd like. Like, what's wrong with self-indulgence in when creating anything? Actually, unironically. Like, I hate to break it to the person, but all forms of creative endeavor is self-indulgence to a degree. Isn't taking care of your feelings a type of self-care? It is. Like, all forms of creativity is self-indulgence to a degree. And I will stand by that statement. There's nothing wrong with self-indulgence. I don't know where this idea that it's wrong to self-indulge came from.
And indulgence itself is defined as, among other things, over-leniency, gratifying appetites and desires, lack of restraint, giving way to temptation or inclination, yielding to gratification. I know that there are...
What the fuck are we even talking about? We're talking about creativity. We're talking about creating art. Okay? What do these things have to do? This is ridiculous. This is just silly.
There are some people who would hear all this and genuinely find nothing wrong. But I think an honest person who seeks to
Yeah, there is nothing wrong.
better and master himself or herself as a person or as a writer would recognize that such tendencies are damaging and courting disaster.
No, they're not. You're just saying those things. I'm sorry. This is really stupid. Oh, you may think that there's nothing wrong with these things that I've just listed, but if you want to master yourself, you will realize that it's just damaging because I say so. It's just damaging because it's sinful and undisciplined. Ridiculous.
Self-indulgence prioritizes pleasure over difficulty. Self-indulgence turns restraint.
Oh my God, what is this religious bullshit of having to suffer, go through difficulty, seeking difficulty? I'm sorry, that's not what art creation is about. It's not about seeking difficulty to overcome. It is about putting your vision and creating it and that creating an emotional response. It's about creating a dialogue between you, the creator, and the audience that you're creating for. It's not some, I don't know, challenge mode that you put yourself on to overcome difficulty. This is ridiculous.
Self-discipline and prizes pleasure over difficulty. Self-indulgence turns restraint.
Like,
Self-discipline
who seeks difficulty? That's just stupid.
and self-mastery
It's about having something to say and saying it, not about seeking difficulty for difficulty's sake or discipline for discipline's sake.
into problematic trigger words that are deemed some form of self-discipline and self-mastery into problematic trigger words
Self-mastery.
that are deemed some form of elitism or ableism or some kind of big badism. But what
There you go. The anti-wokeness. I knew it. It's always all about the anti-wokeness, isn't it? At the end of the day. It just boils down to that.
does self-indulgence mean in literature? Are we talking really long stories or long sentences or big vocabularies? Are we talking purple prose or an excess of adverbs? No, actually not at all. Those are all stylistic issues, and every writer, just like every artist, has his or her own style and will spend their lifetime perfecting and honing that style, even if some people hate it or call it inferior to other styles. Style is not what we're talking about here. No, self-indulgence for a writer means that every storytelling choice made by the writer is prioritizing the writer's fantasies, pleasure, appetites, and desires over the story, the characters, or the overall quality.
I honestly have no clue what that's supposed to mean.
To be clear, I do not mean that writers shouldn't write what they like or enjoy, but rather that writers who are honestly trying to write the best story they can and who are prioritizing the good of the story will
This is just, I'm sorry, this is anti-woke bullshit all over again. Oh, you've inserted black characters into the story? Why did you have to insert those black characters? What is the purpose of those black, gay, on other characters? Why can't you just try to write a good story? This is just stupid. I'm sorry. This is vague. This is stupid. And she is not really saying anything. Once again, as always, with all those anti-woke... this is just a ramble. Oh... you just self-indulge and you just go to your I don't know, put all of the cardinal sins onto paper, okay? Lust, gluttony, envy, and all those evil things that you should not, instead of choosing discipline, strength, and self-mastery. This is just a bunch of vague nothing. She's basically saying, don't write what you like. That's different from write what you know. Yeah, it's just silly. You're just singing. You're just performing sin in writing. Don't. Choose difficulty and self-discipline.
Very often put their fantasies and their emotional appetites and desires aside in order to make the story better. A self-indulgent writer...
What does that mean? Putting your emotional self-appetite aside to make a good story. I have no clue what that means. I have no clue what that means. Especially since creating art is all about emotion.
Writer would never do such a thing because the primary function of writing for a self-indulgent writer is personal gratification. And this...
all authors write for self-gratification. I'm sorry. Because writing is self-gratifying. Creating good art is self-gratifying. This does not mean anything.
necessitates the avoidance of anything that is particularly uncomfortable to the writer. Self-indulgence means that villains can't be too disturbing, or rather the wrong kind of disturbing, as that would be uncomfortable for the writer to write.
What does that even mean? What does that mean? Again, this is just thinly veiled anti-woke rhetoric. Oh no, the villain cannot be problematic because that is not progressive and it's bad, it's uncomfortable. Okay?
Or, to borrow the new popular adjective, it would be icky. Which is where we get genocidal maniacs who are nevertheless really good at sorting out their minions' pronouns, and also would never
There you go. There you go. It's all always anti-woke bullshit at the end of the day. It's always all about anti-woke bullshit. Which is interesting because I guess by the way, My Hero Academia falls under scrutiny. My Hero Academia, the anime that I'm watching, is, interestingly enough, leads to the degradation of literature and the medium, because the bad guys, the League of Villains, there are two characters, okay? And one of the villains knows a trans character, right? It's killed by another villain, a rival villain, let's say. I'm not gonna spoil the thing, okay? But there's a trans person that is killed by a rival villain, and the villains were friends with that character. And they have to team up with that other villain that killed the trans person. And the other villain says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kill him. Actually, I didn't want to kill him. And I guess I'm sorry for killing your friend, right? I didn't mean to kill him." And the first villain says, "You mean her, right? You didn't mean to kill her." And the other villain of the first group says, "Don't make a mistake about that again." So I guess that's and they are all genocidal maniacs, okay? At least some of them are. So I guess My Hero Academia fell into the horrible trap of wokeness that this YouTuber hates, okay? Because I guess villains are not supposed to be human, okay? Villains are supposed to be... That is very interesting that this character, that this person complains about one-dimensional characters in fiction, and then complains that genocidal maniacs could be sorting people's pronouns correctly. Hey, okay, why are these genocidal maniacs different about certain different things in life? Shouldn't they be the exact same things about all aspects of their life? If they're genocidal maniacs, shouldn't that mean that there should be absolute monsters in every single aspect of their life? And the same person says that characters are one-dimensional. Okay? Again, this is all very thinly veiled anti-woke bullshit. There's a difference between I don't want to write contemporary because I'm not good at it, and I don't want to write contemporary because I don't like it. Yeah.
use a racial slur. Being a genocidal maniac will in some ways serve the emotional needs of the writer, sure, but those emotional needs would be harmed if the villain was insensitive to gender issues, say. Self-indulgence means the hero...
No, that's bullshit. Again, it's not necessarily self-indulgence. Maybe the character just has this character trait, okay? It's possible to write a character that is very bad in some aspects of their life, but is more okay in certain different aspects of their life. Because, you know, characters are not one-dimensional. She wants clearly evil monsters then, not polite, suave, Bond-esque villains, or villains like Scar or someone like Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Again, it's always, and all of this always ends up about being anti, oh no, woke snowflakes became authors and don't want to write about things that make them uncomfortable. That's the assumption of the author, okay? If a genocidal maniac is good on pronouns, then that must mean that the author is self-indulgent. It cannot have anything to do with a deliberate choice of writing your characters. No, that's impossible. This has to be self-indulgence and avoiding to write things that are uncomfortable.
Those will have long conversations with each other about popular current year political issues, despite the fact that they live in 13th century England or 38th century Saturn or some random medieval fantasy. setting. Self-indulgence demands, above all, representation, something we're going to talk about more.
Yes. Wokeness is bad and self-indulgent. There you go. That is the entire premise of this video. It became clear very, very fast.
Minute here, but that's why you get an abundance of people.
Good writing is when you don't insert wokeness. Bad writing that destroys literature is when you insert wokeness. There you go.
Say, African descent in stories set in Scotland in the 11th century, for example, or stories in which people who were not of period-accurate English ethnicity in most or all of ruling classes of Georgian Britain, with no reasonable explanation.
There you go. Putting in people of color needs always justification and explanation, okay? Because otherwise it's just self-indulgence. It's the same old bullshit all over again.
Period accuracy is...
It's like when I genuinely, when I used to work at a corporation and I used to show people the artwork for my protagonist of my story, and the first question that my colleagues would ask, okay, why does your character have to have such dark skin? What is the reason why you decided your character's skin has to be so dark? And my answer was, because I want to.
Is completely irrelevant to the self-indulgent writer who is only writing to feed his or her own personal fantasies and emotional needs. As I said, we'll get more into self-representation in a bit here.
Bullshit. This is just stupid. All fiction is self-indulgent to a degree. All creators create because they want to convey certain emotions, certain states, and want to create a certain emotional response in the audience. That is the whole point of creating art.
Self-indulgence is what
It's just that there's a certain type of self-indulgence that she likes and deems correct, and there's certain types of self-indulgence that she sees as forced, incorrect, woke even.
Drives writers to put themselves in their own stories, as often the main characters. Insanely, not only is this common in current year, it's also encouraged. Writers are told to write based on their emotions and their desires and needs. Writing is approached at best therapeutically and at worst narcissistically instead of artistically.
What the fuck does artistically mean here? Again, those are buzzwords that don't mean anything. At the best therapeutically, at worst narcissistically, but never artistically. I don't know what artistically is supposed to mean here. Oh, artistically means with hardship and discipline.
World where art itself is inherently subjective, the only subject matter of any importance can and must be the writer. All right. So how...
I'm sorry, what?
In a world where art itself is inherently subjective, the only subject matter of any important world where therapeutically and at worst narcissistically instead of artistically. In a world where art itself is inherently subjective,
is this person trying to claim that art is inherently objective?
The only subject matter of any importance can and must be the writer. All right. So how does fan fiction produce this specific attitude
Is this person saying that art is not subjective?
towards literature?
That it's objective?
And storytelling. Well, buckle up, because we have some bumpy ground to cover.
Yeah, we do. Some bullshit anti-woke ground.
Fan fiction, as I've said, has been around forever. There are some crazy folks out there who would go as far as to say that Dante's Divine Comedy is fan fiction. I think people who say that don't have a very good grasp on the spirit of medieval literature and approach stories with a fixed modern view, but...
I mean, you said that Twilight was fan fiction, so... You don't even know what fan fiction is yourself.
Sure. Fan fiction, so to speak, has always been around. People tell stories, and then other people tell other stories in that same world with those same characters. Absolutely. We've talked a bit about cultural decay and the prevalence of postmodern philosophy on this.
There you go. cultural decay and postmodern, it's all so blatant, okay? It's so blatant and transparent what the purpose of this video is. Fake Alakal Parker says, everything is a social construct and therefore subjective. Even objects like gold that people say is objective has a subjective value. We all agree that gold has value, not because it's valuable, but because we all think its qualities are important in life. Yeah, but I mean, it all depends on what qualities of gold you focus on, right? Gold is actually one of those minerals that have very useful qualities, very useful qualities like antibacterial. That's why a lot of fillings were made with gold, because it has antibacterial qualities, and there are certain qualities that gold possesses that are very practical. But this. And at the end of the day, it's all a subjective matter of how much value you place on a thing. Yeah, I do agree with that.
This channel already. We've also talked about how the modern way in which children are taught to read.
Yeah, it's all about this awful postmodern maxim. It's Jordan Peterson nonsense, but for literature. This video is just Jordan Peterson bullshit, but for writers, basically.
With a strong emphasis on personal emotional interpretations of texts that are guided by their superiors, of course, alters their ability to both think and write. Are guided with a strong channel already. We've also talked about how the modern way in which children are taught to read, with a strong emphasis on personal emotional interpretations of texts that are guided by their superiors, of course, alters their ability to both think and write. So you should already understand what I mean when I say that the bulk of modern writers have a very different approach to the art and the practice of telling a story than used to be the norm.
No, I don't. You're being so vague that you're not really saying anything.
Call it self-indulgent is probably too kind, but the average young person with storytelling aspirations has, for at least a decade, been almost exclusively emotion-driven in every way.
Art is inherently emotion-driven, you idiot.
They've also been brought up saturated in the moral and cultural landscape created by social media: attention-seeking, self-absorption, narcissism, propaganda, emotional generative hot words.
You are creating a video for social media, okay? For clout, because you want attention. Don't give me that bullshit while doing the same thing that you're criticizing. The irony here is of the scale, okay? The person that throws out a social media video about how social media affects writing, self-indulgent, and narcissism, when all of those things are on the display in this very video. All the things that you've just listed are here for the display on this video.
Pop culture trends masquerading as important social themes, critical literacy, and the poisonous influence of internet politics have created anxious, fragmented, hollow creatures.
Yes, I get it. Put in as many buzzwords as possible without explaining anything, without getting in depth into anything. Online politics? What the fuck are online politics? Hold on.
Politics being as important social agenda, emotional generative hot words, pop culture trends masquerading as important social themes.
I have no idea what pop culture social trends masquerading as important social themes. I have no idea what that means. Again, just throw out as much. That is the anti-woke playbook. Throw out as many vague statements as possible, make them sound as bad as scary as possible, talk about how these things are just damaging the fabric of culture, and there you go. You've got yourself an anti-woke video with tons of views, and you get a lot of money, attention, and clout on social media, which is very ironic because you say that is the exact same thing that you are against.
Critical literacy and the poisonous influence of internet politics have created anxious, fragmented, hollow creatures who nevertheless crave meaning and profundity in their stories.
Yes, authors are hollow, empty creatures.
Combine that with the enormous emotional battering ram that they receive in college literature and creative writing classes. Combine that with the online influence of intensely aesthetically and emotionally self-indulgent online environments like Tumblr. Combine that with things like masculinity and femininity being under constant, confusing, endlessly shifting assault by the
Ah, yes, of course. Gender issues. Of course, transness has to enter the conversation. Again, all of this is just anti-progressive, anti-wokeness messaging disguised as writing becoming bad because of fan fiction.
cultural police of our modern society.
I have no idea what cultural police of our modern society is. I have no clue what that's supposed to mean.
Many of
It's a common thing when I listen to those anti-woke videos. They're so vague. They say so little even though the people creating those videos talk so much that all I can say is I have no clue what that's supposed to mean.
these would-be writers then turn to their favorite stories for escape, stories they grew up with and which are to them a kind of their favorite story, police of our modern society. Many of these would-be writers then turn to their favorite stories for escape.
That is ironic considering that every single one of those anti-woke idiots usually are the first people to scream, "Why are you inserting politics into my games when games are supposed to be my escapism?"
Stories they grew up with and which are to them a kind of cultural and narrative safe space. Stories in our
Oh yeah, it's all about those woke safe spaces.
times now, like Twilight, Percy Jackson, Star Wars, My Hero Academia.
Ah, there you go. My Hero Academia. Oh my God, I knew it. My Hero Academia is the self-indulgent bullshit story of wokeness. Oh my God, really?
Naruto, Sailor Moon, or
What?
cultural and narrative stories they grew up with and which are to them a kind of cultural and narrative safe space. Stories in our times now, like Twilight, Percy Jackson, Star Wars, My Hero Academia, Naruto, Sailor Moon, or, Harry Potter. Some more
Yeah, let's just mix and throw in together many different genres, okay?
classically minded writers will fall in love with the Iliad or the Odyssey or Shakespeare, but none of these stories are exactly what these emotionally formed types of readers need in order to feel emotionally fulfilled in our constantly changing society in which emotions are the only valid currency.
I'm
they
sorry,
take to
what?
like Twilight, Percy Jackson, emotional battering ram that they receive in college literature and creative writing classes.
I'm sorry, art is about emotion.
Combine that with the online influence of intensely aesthetically and emotionally self-indulgent online environments like Tumblr. Combine that with things like masculinity and femininity being under constant, confusing, endlessly shifting assault by the cultural police of our modern society. Many of these would-be writers then turn to their favorite stories for escape, stories they grew up with and which are to them a kind of cultural and narrative safe space. Stories in our times now, like Twilight, Percy Jackson, Star Wars, My Hero Academia, Naruto,
I have no clue why my here.
Sailor Moon, or, Harry Potter. Some more classically minded writers will fall in love with the Iliad or the Odyssey or Shakespeare, but none of these stories are exactly what these emotionally formed types of readers need in order to feel emotionally fulfilled in our constantly changing society in which emotions are the only valid currency.
I'm sorry, but emotions are the biggest currency when it comes to art. Okay? Also, we are all emotionally driven, okay? Humans are not logical thinkers. We rationalize our emotions, but most of our decisions are emotion-based. Okay? Your anti-woke drive is also emotion-based. I hate to break it to you.
So they take to fan fiction to change these stories or characters or update them or shift things around so the story satisfies some specific fantasy or emotional desire.
Or, believe it or not, they love this story and they would like to see more of the story. They'd like to see the story go into different directions. They'd like to explore the same characters doing different things, making different choices, that kind of thing. It's possible that it's not just about fulfillment of some, big emotional desire, probably an emotional defect, therapy, or narcissism, okay? It might be just because of the love for the medium. That is perfectly plausible.
This can be relatively harmless, like a fan fiction in which Hamlet gets his revenge and then lives happily ever after with
Yeah, I'm sorry. There is no such thing as a harmful fan fiction. What kind of bullshit are we talking about here now? Relatively harmless as changing. What the fuck are you talking about?
pedophilia. Or it can be incredibly disturbing, like fan fiction in which Princess Leia develops a romantic and sexual attraction to Jabba the Hutt during her captivity. And that's probably the tamest fan fiction I saw on AO3.
Okay, I'm sorry. This video is so full of bullshit that I don't even know how to. Before, this person has said that authors are afraid, authors are self-indulgent and will never write about things that are uncomfortable. Okay, they will always only write about things that are indulging into their emotions, and that they write about genocidal maniacs that will be okay with pronouns. But now they say that there's this evil fanfic that tackles a very uncomfortable topic. And she doesn't like that it touches an uncomfortable topic of a victim forming a romantic relationship with their captor. Completely contradiction the message from before. That it's those self-indulging authors that will not write about uncomfortable things and will not write uncomfortable characters. But now, writing about those uncomfortable topics is actually given as an example of a horrible fanfic. Okay, so which is it? Which is it? Are we supposed to write about uncomfortable topics or not? Oh, wait. As soon as you deem those uncomfortable topics to be degenerate, now it's off limits. Now it's bad writing. Okay, brilliant.
In a normal world, such a diversion would be, in some cases, harmless and short-lived, which is to say, this kind of thing, minus the disturbing perversions, is...
There you go, disturbing perversions. Again, very interesting that the same person whined about authors who self-indulge emotionally, not being able to write about uncomfortable topics. And now she is talking about disturbing perversions in writing. Brilliant. The consistency of this video is staggering to the mind.
Normal in young teens, and then they grow out of it. In our society, people don't really grow out of anything. Ours is a society in which people have developed a prolonged, almost eternal childhood. This is aided by the immense prevalence of emotions. But regardless of the
Fuck me. Yeah, emotions are something that you should grow out of, actually. The prevalence of emotion means that you never grow up, and, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
reason, if emotions rule, then emotions will always be served. And if luxuriating in fan fiction in which your
I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. If emotions are to rule there, then they are always to be served.
favorite characters don't die and get together in the end makes you happy, you'll never stop. Because why would you? The story makes you happy, and being happy is the only thing that matters, right? And it's not like you're hurting anyone. As this indulgence is indulged, its grip on the mind of the reader and writer becomes strong enough to overwhelm anything else. A fan fiction that meets the specific emotional needs of the reader will always be better than anything on the shelves. A fan fiction in which the right character does the right things and says the right things and has the right opinions and has the...
Again, the anti-woke bullshit rears its ugly head. What the fuck does that mean? The character does the right things, has the right opinions, etc. I have no clue what that means. Am I going to hear any specific examples of this bullshit or not?
The right things happen to them will absolutely be deemed superior to, say, War and Peace, which I'm sure is probably pretty problematic. I don't know. Have we canceled Tolstoy yet? Not that there's not,
Again, it's all just anti-woke bullshit. This you don't have to examine any subject. You don't have to analyze any subject. You don't really have to go in depth into anything that you're saying. You don't have to give examples. You don't have to analyze those examples. As long as you can throw out as many anti-woke bullshit buzzwords as possible, you got yourself a video. You got your attention that you want. You're feeding your narcissistic need for validation and money. Because you know what? You get a lot of money for being anti-woke. That's all that this is about. This person does not give a shit about good writing, about literature, about the state of literature. She does not give a shit about that. All that she cares about is to ram as many anti-woke points as possible, talk about the degeneration of culture, fiction, our way of life, civilization, and whatnot. Because that is what earns points, that is what gets attention, that is what gets views, and that is what gets money. This person does not care about the quality of writing. If she would, then she'd be approaching this whole subject in a very different way.
War and Peace fan fiction. I know what you're thinking. Why is it wrong to be happy? Why is it wrong to pursue something that is in itself not harmful but makes you happy? How is it any different to write a sappy fanfic than it is to write a novel of some other sort? Aren't all writers self-indulgent? No.
Yes, actually, all our authors are self-indulgent. I would like to hear examples of those authors that are supposedly not self-indulgent, and I will show you why they are.
Actually, they're not, and it is different. The difference is that an honest writer who is pursuing self-betterment and excellence knows that...
Oh, yeah, okay. The difference is that I'm going to throw out there a bullshit, vague statement like self-improvement and self-excellence, and I'm going to allow these vague words to do all the legwork for me as to explaining what the difference actually is. Spoilers, there is none. Okay, there's this emotional need to feel fulfilled and excellent that you're pursuing. Okay, that's all.
That sometimes the story needs things that he or she or the world doesn't necessarily like. Like
what does that fucking mean?
Villain who does vile things, or at least things that could potentially get him canceled on social media, like say a villain like Loki in the first Avengers making misogynistic remarks to a woman. I remember seeing people on Tumblr really struggling with that.
Okay. Jesus Christ Almighty. I hate this video. I hate this video because it's so blatant, it's so transparent. It is so transparent.
And refusing to believe that their beloved Loki would ever do such a thing.
Oh no, there are people on Tumblr that criticize Loki for doing bad things. That must mean that literature and creativity is on the decline because some people on Tumblr were unhappy. This is not serious. This is not serious analysis.
Even as a villain, or a hero or heroine who does something wrong and has to try to make it right, like Jane Austen's Emma. Or sometimes a story simply doesn't need the 17-page description of the main character losing her virginity, and so the writer removes it. All of these represent writers not basking in self-indulgence.
Okay, give me an example of those works that are so self-indulgent. You gave My Hero Academia. And My Hero Academia has villains doing villainous things and has heroes that make mistakes. Endeavor. Hello? Endeavor from My Hero Academia? I'm 80% sure most people write things because they want to or feel like they need to. Shakespeare may have wanted to write a story about tragedy and love, or Margaret Atwood feels like they need to write Handmaid's Tale because they saw the decline and awful state of women's rights. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, but all art is emotion driven. To say that it's not, it's complete bullshit. All authors are self-indulgent. I'm sorry. I will stand by it. I will debate it. I will debate anybody that tries to claim otherwise. Oh, my dog is lying on his back. My dog is just lying on his back. Apparently, that's the most relaxed pose that a dog can take. Hold on. I'm gonna take a photo. I'm gonna send it to some people now, okay? My God, this video is infuriating, actually. Uh, One moment, I'll send it to. Mm, all right, I'm sending it to people. All right. It's just so I hate it when things are so blatantly shameless. Okay, I don't really care about anything, but I can make money on the anti-woke wave.
Instead, choices are made not based on the fantasies and emotional desires of the writer, but on the best way to tell the best story.
Okay, that is such a vague statement. It's a worthless statement. Okay?
Please emotional desires of the writer, but on the best way to tell the best story.
There is no such thing as a best way to tell the best story. That is a bullshit statement if I've ever heard one. What does that mean? The best way to tell a best story. There's no such thing as a best way to tell a best story, okay? If you think there is, you're deluding yourself. There's not one way to tell the best story. What is the best story? What does that even mean?
Please bear in mind, the best
Consider that the best story is the one that will create the emotional reaction that you would like your audience to have. Or maybe it might create an unintentional emotional resonance with the audience.
story and self-indulgence are somewhat subjective. A lot of it depends
Somewhat subjective. No, they're not somewhat subjective. They're completely subjective. Somewhat subjective.
on the specific writer and the specific story. For some writers, giving into their emotional desire to have a happy ending no matter what is what constitutes self-indulgence. For other writers, giving into the emotional desire to have everything be constantly bleak and tragic no matter what is what constitutes self-indulgence. For other writers, having the entire story built around how hot the werewolf CEO is what constitutes self-indulgence. Often an unbiased, reasonable reader can recognize self-indulgence when they see it. Sometimes what it is a constant battle taking place at the writer's desk. Here's an example.
Okay, finally, fuck me, finally an example.
If you look at the earlier versions of Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, you'll find that things like heavily emotional scenes had been cut. There's even one scene in which a glimmer of kindness from the kid was completely removed. Keeping them would have indulged McCarthy's own comfort with his characters, his desire to like them in a specific way, or even just inject his own personality or inclinations into his character's behavior. But he was certainly not self-indulgent, so they were cut because he believed that would best serve the story as he was writing it. You tell me if you think the final version was better or worse as a result.
What the fuck does that mean, better serve the story? Again, she was supposed to be given an example, but that example it has no analysis whatsoever to it. There's no analysis here. What is the better story? And what is the worst story because of the self-indulgence?
And I'm not saying that all writing has to be as emotionally and descriptively sparse as McCarthy's, or that emotions or descriptions are inherently self-indulgent. But he was specifically pursuing a particular style in his work, and part of that pursuit was creative honesty and constant betterment.
What the fuck does that mean, creative honesty and self-betterment? I'm sorry, those are such vague statements.
Honesty, by the way, does not mean bearing one's soul on the page. It means assessing honestly.
I hate this nervous laughter, okay?
Whether or not something is the best it can be according to one's goals, style, and abilities.
What the fuck does that mean? Again, I keep saying, what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
McCarthy understood the danger of the siren call of self-indulgence, and he rejected it, and as a result, he became a better and better writer. Fan fiction, on the other hand,
I have no clue what any of that means. And why was he pursuing that form of storytelling? Because he wanted to, because it made him feel happy. Yeah, exactly. This is just all vague bullshit that doesn't mean anything. What the hell does self-betterment mean in this context?
And commodifies specifically the serving of highly personal emotions and desires. And pursuing stories with aspects which are uncomfortable or even, if you'd like, problematic will be seen as the...
I'm sorry, you just criticized the story for pursuing problematic and uncomfortable themes. Like, you know, a victim falling in love with their captor. You gave it as an example of a bad fanfiction. So what the fuck do you want at the end of the day? Do you want those problematic things to be explored or not? Like, I'm sorry, you cannot just say on the one hand, oh, I want authors to tackle those problematic things, and then give a problematic theme as a negative example. Like when this person says problematic and uncomfortable themes, she means woke, okay? She means anti-woke themes, not actually problematic or disturbing themes to be explored.
Height of discomfort and controversy. There have been, within the fan fiction community, numerous scandals that have arisen over this simple factor. Characters who behaved in uncomfortable ways. And uncomfortable to the fan fiction reader or writer means something that prevents the reader from identifying with the character entirely, or something that prevents the reader from deriving emotional, psychological, or even sexual release from the story.
Sexual release. Okay, give me an example then.
These issues can range from
okay, you will not.
shipping the two wrong characters to writing a male character who somehow...
What the fuck does that mean? Shipping the two wrong characters. I have no clue what that means, shipping two wrong characters.
Takes away the female character's agency, or whatever. This has now made it into the literary world, as I'm sure most of you are aware. Books,
No, I'm not aware.
especially, find themselves under constant scrutiny. If even a speck of these uncomfortable elements is found, the writer...
Yeah, You're one example of that. Again, you criticize a fanfiction for exploring a topic of a victim developing feelings for their captor. You're part of the problem that you're describing.
Writers and publishers will be bullied incessantly until the book is pulled. I have several examples on my website, but
Okay, give those examples.
my favorite is Sparrow and Vine, which was attacked for having a character mention that Elon Musk was good at business.
And that's not self-indulgent, for fuck's sake. Praising Elon Musk in your book is not self-indulgent. That is not an example of self-indulgence in the slightest, as you described it. What? Praising Elon Musk in your work is not self-indulgent, huh? Fuck me. That's not self-indulgence. Wow. Wow. This person has been ranting about authors being self-indulgent for 20 minutes and then says that a great example of a nice book that was being criticized is an author writing about how Elon Musk is good at business. Amazing.
This is why also in books like Morning
The lack of self-awareness on the display is just, wow.
Glory Milking Farm, you get a page-long monologue from the Minotaur about how hard he's always working to make sure the main character never feels like she doesn't have any agency. This is fan fiction verbiage. This is fan fiction bleeding into mainstream fiction.
Why? Why? You're just saying that, but you're not explaining why, which is a common theme for this video. The author of this video just claiming things without any explanation, without no explaining is needed. It's all just self-evident. It's all just common sense.
And I think we can all agree, ruining.
And also just spurs those, like, you just replace any explanation with, I think we all can agree. I think we all know that. I think we all just understand that that's bad. I think we all just intuitively can tell that's not a good thing. I don't need to explain. I don't need to analyze. I don't need to get into it, right? There is no need. There's no need.
The idea that stories must present a world or a situation that perfectly aligns with the writer's specific emotional ideal.
Which again is ironic since this person just gave an example of a book that praised Elon Musk and did not give it as an example of self-indulgence.
Especially in abstract areas like agency, are the direct result of writers coming up in fanfiction communities. These communities are populated by young college and high school age people being raised on a steady diet of internet everything, emotion-based reasoning, and political...
Yeah, because humans are robots, as we know. Humans are not emotion-based driven organisms. Of course not. Yes, we are. Humans are emotion-driven. Okay, I'm sorry to break this to you.
Social bullying of modern society. These young people have been conditioned
Social bullying of modern society.
To judge worth and value based on things like broad social literacy regarding current issues and having the correct political opinions, which, as we all know, are constantly changing. These young people that
Translation, I want to be as offensive as I want, and you cannot stop me, you woke skulls, or whatever. It's...
then take these attitudes into these fanfiction communities where they do all the policing, all the moderating, all the judging and assessing. There is no oversight from literary authorities or even simply...
Literary authorities? What the fuck are literary... What? Literary authorities?
people who have a literary framing to their priorities. So these so-called literary fan fiction spaces are
What the fuck are literally authorities?
entirely built, operated, controlled, and populated by the subset of young people who then indulge together in all their fantasies and desires, sexual and non-sexual. That is,
Sexual fantasies.
these spaces are perfectly politically and socially safe, according to their own set of ideals and values, while also being entirely permissive. These online spaces to these young people quickly become important and valid parts of their formation as people and, crucially, as writers. So then reading and also seeing the rising popularity in these spaces of the types of stories that will necessarily succeed there teaches young writers that good writing means that the story and characters must embody their fantastical ideals for social perfection and can't be too uncomfortable.
Okay, give me an example. Give me an example of such a story.
This discomfort, after all, prevents the story from satisfying emotional fantasies to their utmost.
Okay, give me an example.
So these discomforts are not only undesirable, they are morally and creatively unjustifiable.
Give me an example.
That's why in our era, stories in which a fictional character is racist are maligned and canceled because even the presence of such a thing prevents complete immersion in an emotional and psychological fantasy.
Okay, what is the purpose of creating a racist character? I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna use the language of this person, okay? What is the purpose of having a racist protagonist, and how does that make a good story? Okay, please explain to me how creating a racist protagonist is good storytelling. I mean, yeah, there actually can be ways of writing a racist protagonist and have it work as a story, but I like this particular content creator to tell me how this is creating a good story. Hello, Gray on Wannabe. Oh, this lady again. Yeah, this is just anti-woke content dressed up as wanting writing to be better. This is just complete vague nonsense. No explanation, no analysis, no nothing. Okay? This person is not saying anything, which is par for the course for anti-woke content, actually. Ray on Wannabe, I can think of some, but I don't think you would agree that what I'm thinking of are good stories. When I write a racist, they're the bad guys who fail at their goal and are beat by the non-racist heroes and hero minorities. Well, you're self-indulgent.
That is, it prevents self-indulgence.
There you go.
And these writers are being trained to genuinely believe that getting in the way of total emotional pleasure is bad writing.
This is just vague nonsense. This is just vague nothing.
Examples like Sparrow and Vine, which was pulled before release after readers online expressed outrage over things said by the characters, are...
Again, it's very ironic that this person talks of self-indulgence, but does not think that a book praising Elon Musk within its pages is not self-indulgent. You know, when an author has their characters praise Elon Musk in their book, that's not self-indulgent at all.
Are a perfect example of fan fiction writing mentality taking over mainstream culture. The author even said when she pulled the release that she would rewrite passages so they wouldn't contribute to harm. That's the kind of thing fan fiction communities train writers and readers to prioritize. But having a, as the writer described, flawed character in this book who expressed admiration for Elon Musk's business strategies was way too uncomfortable for readers.
Okay. How was it shown in the story that the character was flawed? Like, again, this person is so vague. This YouTuber is being so vague.
so it had to go. Any writer who gives into this kind of bullying is a coward and lacks all creative integrity. But
Okay, I have no... What the fuck are you talking about?
that's what fan fiction does to you. I feel like I need to tap a sign or something.
Again, this is just shoe on the head for writers, okay? This person is trying to be the shoe on head for writers. Puddle deep, brainless, anti-wokeness, this just dressed up as a wish for writing to be better, self-excellence, discipline, hardship.
Of course, some select kinds of discomfort can be present, but only if they are tagged with content warnings.
By the way, again, this person is ranting about discomfort not being allowed in writing, okay? And then said, but they're discussing fanfics that are about Leia falling in love with Jabba the Hutt, her captor. So she directly complained about a story which tackled an uncomfortable topic. Make it make sense. Please make it make sense.
This can be anything from vomiting to the presence of food to eye horror to other things I can't mention in a YouTube video.
Of course, creators like this are the biggest cowards when it comes to content creation because they want the money. They will censor any problematic word. They will censor rape, gun. They will censor themselves constantly. They will just... They're the biggest cowards because that's all they want to... They care about money and clout. Rayon wannabe. Yeah, it's all emotional. She's just upset that the world isn't catering to her specifically. I know. Like, it's all very pathetic and very transparent. She complains that all that the authors care about now is social media validation and artistic want for attention while making a video on YouTube, the social media platform, for attention.
As long as they're in the content warnings, you can usually get away with including uncomfortable elements, but you have to adhere to the content warning system. If you don't, you run the risk of potentially disrupting a reader's sense of comfortable emotional immersion in their fantasy.
Okay, what's wrong with content warning? What the fuck does that have to do with the writing itself? Content warning is something that exists outside of the writing itself. This is stupid. Again, this is just brainless, anti-woke ranting. Okay? What if a person that is a victim of rape, and I'm not afraid to say the word rape, picks up a book and doesn't know that there is rape in it? And their memories of that might flood them while they read it. Okay? What's wrong with including a warning saying, hey, this piece of work includes sexual assault? It has no effect on the writing itself. It just informs the reader what to expect when engaging with the work. That's it. And now that's considered by this second story person to be contributing to bad writing itself? That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense. It only makes sense if you don't care about good or bad writing and all you care about is anti-woke narratives, okay? That's all you care about. Content warnings? Oh no! How dare you? How dare you? Fake Parker says, I bet she's saying this because she's been criticized before for weird story elements, and her beta readers may have said, I think this part kind of takes the reader out, and now she's butthurt. True. Crayon wannabe. As someone who has been raped, I'd like to know in advance if media I'm going to consume has rape in it. Sometimes I'm not in the mood to think about that kind of violence. Yeah, exactly. And it has nothing to do with the writing itself. It's just crying about wokeness, okay? This kind of, oh no, even if you do write problematic stuff, you have to do a content warning. There's nothing wrong about content warnings. That just, I'm sorry, stop whining, bitching, and crying about content warnings, okay?
Land. And there are few sins higher in the fanfiction community. Why do you think people started demanding trigger warnings on everything?
This is just stupid. It's just, I'm sorry, but crying about the fact that authors and creators actually inform the readers what's in their work is just stupid, okay? Stupid beyond belief. It has nothing to do with the quality of writing. Nothing. Maybe we should be kind to each other. Nah, forget about it. This is so stupid. I'm sorry.
Now, of course, emotional and psychological fantasy lands are subjective. So one writer's sexual assault fantasy.
Oh, okay, of course. Of course she's gonna censor the word sexual assault, because we need that clout, we need that money. But it's the bad fanfiction writers, it's the bad woke creators that just want attention on social media, but not me. I'm not seeking attention on social media or clout while I censor myself to get that revenue money. We're watching at this because I have fanfiction writers in my community, and this is just a baseless assault on fanfiction writing. Rayon wannabe. When you watch TV, at least in the US, TV shows show a little square in the top left-hand corner saying TV 13 plus or MA. Sometimes it even includes the reason smoking, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this has been going on for decades, just my own. Many works of fiction have this screen at the beginning. This work includes explicit language of sexual violence, etc. And you know what? It changes nothing about the quality of the work itself. Absolutely nothing.
And there are few sins higher in the fanfiction community. Why do you think people started demanding trigger
Again, I hate this bullshit shoe on head sign tapping. Oh, hello, fellow kids. Look, I'm such a cool, hip content creator. I'm tapping the sign. I'm tapping the sign. I'm tapping my brainless sign.
warnings on everything?
It's so stupid. I just can, replace any sort of analysis with a brainless tapping of a brainless slogan. Sure.
Now, of course, emotional and psychological
I'm such a deep intellectual, by the way.
fantasy lands are subjective. So one writer's
Stellar Sovereign X says, you are my favorite far-right activist. Thank you. Thank you very much. Finally, I get some recognition.
assault fantasy
Oh, there you go.
will be just that, fantasy land.
The
And
self-censorship for... the self-insert for, for the revenue. Speaking of revenue and money, because this is a fundraising stream, I totally agree with what you said about color, LGBT, old people, and women. Thank you. If you really like those things, okay, if you really like my far-right commentary, okay, if you really like me fighting the wokeness, then go to lucyhaza.org/live and consider donating something for my con, because I don't think Generation Z is becoming more sensitive. They're just saying, do we really need tough skin? What if we were kind to each other? How about, I don't think Generation Z is becoming more sensitive, okay? I think that Generation Z is approaching life through a much far less brainless lens, okay? Like, unironically, this person actually is advocating for one-dimensional, boring, shitty stories. Unironically, this is what this person would like. Boring, one-dimensional stories. No wokeness, please. Fake Alec Parker says, Lucy should get more funding from Peter Thiel. True.
For another writer, it will be a story in which Lady Macbeth
Prey on wannabe. Also, this is the same shit they said when millennials were the age of Gen Z now. Yeah, of course. Of course. It's always gonna be like that. It's brainless analysis.
and Ophelia run away to open a coffee shop in Finland and talk about how powerful and independent they are while they're in bed or whatever. What I'm saying is that...
Oh no. Exploration of characters? Holy moly. Who would want that in their fiction?
Everyone goes looking for different emotional needs to satisfy, and like other kinds of tastes, these tend to be highly specific. That's...
Yeah, wow. Art is about emotion. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed that art is an emotional dialogue between the creator and the audience? Who would have fucking guessed?
why the tag system on sites like AO3 is so robust.
No, we all know that art is actually about being edgy and insulting, okay? It's about discipline and self-perfection. We all know that. Oh, it's also about serving the organic state for the betterment of society and, you know, being ready to die in a war if necessary.
And that's where that began for literature. Tags and hyperspecificity like that only occurs when the readers are seeking hyperspecific content to satisfy hyperspecific emotional or sexual needs and have become accustomed to having those needs neatly labeled and accessible, because that's the whole point of fan fiction. Because
what the fuck does that mean? I have never heard anything stupider in my life. Do you know what this person is actually saying effectively? I'll tell you what this person is saying effectively, okay? This person is saying that dividing books into genres is self-indulgence. Oh, you have horror books? Oh, you have crime novels? Oh, you have romance novels. Those are hyper specific and they're targeting to indulge into your specific emotional states. That's bad. What the fuck are you talking about? Are genres existing within literature bad? Because that's what you just said. That is literally what you just said. It's bad to have genres in fiction because they are literally catering to a specific taste. They are catering to a specific emotion that people want from the works that they engage in with. Vladimir, hey Lucy, maybe it's too late, but holy crap, Elon Musk is in the PDF files. Oh, I know he is. We're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be, both Trump and Elon Musk are in the files. I know. It's not too late. It's never too late for that, Vladimir. Pekka Cow Parker says, you know what's also the whole point of making life easier? Innovation. I'm saying it. Cons are anti... Yeah, I know. $5. Thank you. Thank you. We've made $10 on our fundraising stream. It's just ridiculous. Okay? All that she had said about hyperspecificity, tags, and catering to a specific taste, that is what the genres exist. That is why genres exist. To cater to a specific taste, to cater to people that want a specific emotional reaction when reading a work. So should we do away with genres then? Because they're a type of self-indulgence? This is brainless analysis once again.
Here's the thing. Yes, there's smut, and that satisfies sexual fantasies and sexual needs. But self-indulgence extends beyond smut, resulting in work that is essentially emotional smut.
What the fuck does that mean?
Its sole function is to allow maximum emotional satisfaction.
Yeah, that's... What the fuck's wrong with maximum emotional satisfaction? I'm sorry, this person is talking in broad generalizations as if she was a religious preacher more than anything. Actually, unironically, this person is talking as if she was some religious preacher. Do not engage in sin of emotional gratification. Okay? Seek posterity, whip your back, and throw away your emotions, or else you will never be an adult. This is so stupid. Emily says, I stopped reading LGBT smut fiction because I was ashamed of reading it and writing it. Well, that's silly. You're not silly for being ashamed of it, but there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. You know what? Read it. Write it. What's wrong with it?
If you look at the cloud tag on AO3, you can see some of what I'm talking about here. And these are only
literally, I'm listening to a priest now. Like an old... She's just some old priest that talks about morality and degeneracy and, I don't know, indulgence in your feelings.
the most popular tags, so only a fraction of what's available. Let's ignore for now the plethora of disturbing sexual tags. By the way, what I've blurred...
Oh, disturbing sexual tags. Says the person that cried about authors not engaging in difficult and disturbing topics.
Here is stuff that I think I might not be allowed to show in a YouTube video. Feel free to go to the site yourself if you want to see the whole image. But let's look mainly at these other tags that signify a work that satisfies a specific emotional need or hunger. We can see hugs, happy ending, comfort, cuddling and snuggling, feelings, praise, kink, protectiveness, self-esteem, and so on.
Okay.
And we can also see tags that are
LGBTQ plus themes. Oh, that's so bad. That's so indulgent.
Meant to satisfy the readers' and writers' emotional need to see themselves represented, such as autism spectrum, LGBTQ, reader insert, gender themes, and so on. What a lot...
Again, vague, anti-woke bullshit language.
A lot of people don't realize is that the need for...
Also, there's nothing wrong with seeking the representation in fiction, by the way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to read stories about people that go through same struggles, same trials and tribulations as themselves. Okay? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Emotional satisfaction, especially among young women, is almost as strong, if not stronger, than the need for sexual satisfaction, and can bring about a bizarrely specific array of subgenres and tastes, comparable...
Again, all this video is apart from being anti-woke bullshit, it says there's a one specific correct way to write fiction and engage with fiction. All others are woke degeneracy. That's it. Self-indulgence.
To, sexual entertainment things. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Show of hands, how many people know what I'm talking about when I say the word wump? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you. Wump, an old onomatopoeia for something like a solid body slam in comics, is the term that has come to refer to emotionally or sexually satisfying physical harm to characters. That is, scenes and stories in which a character is hurt in some way will produce emotional satisfaction in the audience. Don't get me wrong, this isn't always satisfaction that the character got hurt like some kind of sadism. It can be, but not as a rule. This is more the emotional release of the physical harm and, crucially, the comfort that comes after. The emotional satisfaction comes more from the comfort than the hurt itself, so the hurt is satisfying because it presents the promise of future comfort, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
This emotional need, once identified, became an object of indulgence. This fan-made, publicly available
Okay, I want examples. Again, this is vague. That is interesting, Vladimir. I'm gonna have to cover this. That is pretty interesting, Vladimir. Syphilis is not curable. I think it's manageable, not curable. Ray wannabe. She doesn't gotta put her fetishes on blast like this. Girl.
highly detailed spreadsheet focusing primarily on Western media provides timestamps and descriptions for wump scenes in movies and shows, and has over 15,000 entries, including TV episodes, movies, games, podcasts, comics and manga, anime, YouTube videos and music videos, and so on. And
Okay. What the hell is that supposed to mean about writing? Polyphonica says, hey, hello. This is just thinly veiled anti-woke nonsense. Very, very transparent.
of course, trigger warnings. On Tumblr, you can find hundreds of users who make wump lists for movies and shows and books, as well as GIF sets or GIF sets, if you'd rather, of these specific scenes with emphasis on whatever aspect the maker finds most satisfying.
Okay, what does that have? Okay. Who cares? I'm gonna just ask, who cares? Who cares? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Whether that's the pained expression of the hurt character, the sight of a chiseled body covered in blood, or the worried faces of the character's friends. Moreover, there's physical wump and emotional wump, and this can be even further broken down.
Okay, what does this whole wump nonsense have to do with quality of writing?
Gunshots your thing? We've got wump for that.
And what does that have to do with fan fiction, by the way? Nothing. This has nothing to do with fan fiction. This is just some anti-woke rant.
You prefer a nice head cold? We've got that too. How about torture, grief, crying?
This whole tangent has nothing to do with fan fiction. I just have to point that out.
Chains, handcuffs, stabbings, non-consensual stuff.
Oh yeah, says the person again that cried about authors not engaging in disturbing and problematic content. Now cries about fiction engaging in problematic and uncomfortable subject matter. Please make it make sense. Do you or do you not want authors to engage in uncomfortable subjects? Is this person saying that rape should never be written into stories? Is that it? Please make it make sense for me. So are we supposed to have uncomfortable themes or not? Polyphonica, this is only bad if you're offended by anything bad in literature. Only if it agrees with her.
Why do you want it?
It seems like it.
Which, by the way, is all with male victims. Needless to say, there's a large
What's wrong with having male victims? What?
subgenre of fanfiction focused on wump. This is often called merely hurt comfort. You can also see it in these other tags, such as angst, that would be emotional wump, anxiety, self-harm, trauma, torture, medical injury, crying, comfort, and so on. What does this indulge exactly? It depends on the reader or writer. For some, it is absolutely sexual, and so the story will even veer into smut territory.
This is just literally anti-woke bullshit from plus religious puritanism. This person is just a run-of-the-mill anti-woke religious puritanist. That's it. Polyphonica says, I'm assuming it's just gross when women or people she doesn't like do it. I assume she doesn't mind it. Men violent or controversial. Yes, true. What she gave as a good example of a book that was cancelled is when one of the characters praised Elon Musk for being good at business. That was an example of a good book and not self-indulgent at all.
For many, though, it's entirely emotional and fulfills some attention fantasy or caregiving fantasy, or what have you, of the writer or reader. Some will say that it's therapeutic, which is probably often true, but that's therapy, not literature. And a good therapist would
Literature can be therapy. That's not mutually exclusive, actually. Actually, many most famous authors of literature in history wrote their works because they sought therapy. Hold on. That just made me angry. This is just pissing me off. This whole this is really pissing me off because this is complete bullshit. This is therapy and not literature. This just shows that this person is completely illiterate when it comes to literature. One of the most well-known classic Polish authors, classic classic writers that wrote poetry, was a person that wrote for therapeutic reasons. Angel Thump is a Twitch emote, often stylized, featuring a crying angelic version of Isaac of the game. Like, this is nonsense. By the way, Thump. Okay, this is the author, right? Jan Kochanowski is the author. During the 1560s and 1570s, Kochanowski completed a series of elegies titled Treni, which was later published in 3 volumes in 1584. That's not modern, is it? 1584. That's not classic. That's not modern, is it? In English, generally titled Laments rather than Threnodies. The poignant 19 elegies mourn the loss of the cherished 2.5-year-old daughter Ursula. The author was so distraught by the death of his daughter that he wrote a whole thing about it. Okay? Jan Kochanowski was the greatest poet of Poland during its existence as an independent kingdom. His laments are his masterpiece, the choicest work of Polish lyric poetry before the time of Mickiewicz. Kochanowski was a learned poet of the Renaissance, drawing his inspiration from the literature of Greece and Rome. He was also a man of sincere piety, famous for his translation of the Psalms and his native language. Okay? And he wrote his poetry because he was mourning his daughter. Like, this is some bullshit saying that therapy is not literature. Yeah, Gray on Wannabe. She just fundamentally does not understand art. Yeah, I know. I've noticed. I've been noticing that for 29 minutes straight now. That this person just does not understand art at all. Because this is not about understanding art. This is not about writing being good or bad. KK1 Darnock says, yes, indeed. Thank you. This is not about any of that. This is just about being anti-woke and making money for it.
Probably caution against a constant, ever-increasing indulgence in works that could potentially re-traumatize the reader.
Yeah, one of the greatest writers in Polish history was just a self-indulgent dork. Thank you. The second story. For your amazing literary analysis. Probably was just woke.
Or writer. Of course, and this is a closely related issue, this notion that a writer's therapy session, even if it is beneficial to the writer, ought to then also be published for everyone else to read is both a very non-literary notion and is a direct result of fanfiction's nefarious, poisonous influence on the minds of writers. And
again, I have to read this again. Oh, holy shit, I have to read this again. Okay? Jan Kochanowski, 1930, born in 1530, died in 1584, was the greatest poet of Poland during its existence as an independent kingdom. His laments are his masterpiece. His masterpiece. Okay? The poignant 19 elegies mourn the loss of his cherished 2.5-year-old daughter, Ursula. Yeah, just because this greatest author in Polish history wrote about the mourning of his lost daughter, it doesn't mean that it should have been published for everybody to see. This is just so stupid. This statement just offended me. Okay, this offended me. This whole notion that therapy is not literary somehow.
And is, in a sense, the absolute height of self-indulgence. Interestingly, very few of these fictions and infatuations feature female characters getting hurt. Feel free to discuss that one amongst yourselves. The bottom line here is that fanfiction has, for some time, been specifically and prominently a vehicle for the indulgence of highly specific emotional or sexual needs and fantasies. As these fanfiction writers grew up while failing to mature.
This is very stupid analysis. This is a non-analysis.
And broke into the mainstream, of course this attitude came with them. The thing with self-indulgence is that self-betterment as an author or writer of any kind is no longer...
Self-betterment is such an empty phrase. What the fuck does that mean? Self-betterment.
...is important, but rather self-representation. The story has to, in every way, represent the specific ideals, desires, fantasies, politics, opinions, and aesthetics that the author values most.
I have no clue what that's supposed to mean in the context. All writers do this without exception. All writers do this without exception.
More than this, the story and characters have to represent the author the most.
Just write a good story is an empty and useless sentiment. Polyphonica, why does writing need to make me a better person? I think I got a different person. What is this supposed to mean, make me a better person? What the hell does that even mean?
word, the story has to represent the author's identity. I've had people send me messages telling me that fan fiction is incredibly important because it allows representation and for them to identify with the characters. Fran Lebowitz is someone with whom I seldom agree. However, a lot of her opinions on books and readers and writers do
This
have
person is just illiterate. This person just wants to make money on anti-woke content. That's it.
a strong note of truth to them, but never more so than when she said this. A book is not supposed to be a mirror, it's supposed to be a door.
Oh, okay. Another vague, nonsensical statement. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Absolutely right. The function of reading is not to find yourself perfectly represented in the characters and their environments. The function of reading is to explore other people, other ideas, other environments, other circumstances.
No, that's bullshit. Okay? There's no one correct purpose to reading or one correct purpose to writing. There's several different purposes of writing and on reading depending on what the individual sets out to do, on what the individual author sets out to do, or what the individual reader wants. There's no one correct way to write and one correct way to engage with the media, with the medium. That it's just delusional to think that there's a one single correct way of doing things. And that writing should be one thing. It's just nonsense. Prion wannabe had to pick my grocery delivery, so I'm late. But yeah, I wrote tankas when my friend died. She's just wrong.
You have full and constant access to your own mind. A book or any story is supposed
Oh God, that is such, oh God, that is such fundamental misunderstanding of psychology that I just don't know what to do with it. You have such access to your mind that there's no need to explore your mind state in writing, and there's no possibility that other people who are like you might also be able to identify with what you're going through your writing. No, that's just incorrect. That's just self-indulgent. That's stupid.
supposed to broaden your mind. How can it do that if it's just you replicated over again?
Yeah, how can you broaden your mind if you explore yourself actually? What?
If you want to see yourself, look in a mirror. That is not the function of a story.
There is no single function of a story. There's no such thing as a single function to a story.
Self-indulgence.
Again, the premise of this video is there is a single correct way to write fiction and engage in fiction, and everything else out of that is just wrong and leads to degradation.
Self-representing fan fiction isn't literature. It isn't even in itself valuable storytelling. All it
Why?
is the mirror of the author, and therefore only has value to the author.
No, it does not. What about people that can just... What about the people that say that they can see themselves in the author? What about that? That is a nonsensical statement.
And that value itself is fleeting and limited because all the author has done with it is presented in some limited form the contents not of his or her own mind, but of his or her limited specific emotional or sexual fantasy land.
Why emotional and sexual? What the fuck? Projection? I'm sorry, what the fuck? This is going to be my thumbnail, okay? This is my thumbnail picture. I'm saving it right now for fake Alec Cal Parker, okay? There you go. This is my thumbnail. I found it. I'm sending it right now to fake Alec Cal. We have our thumbnail. Jesus Christ Almighty. This is why I insist she's self-reporting. This is just... My God. By the way, you're limited. Your limited sort of perspective based on your emotion experience. That's all writing, okay? That is literally all of writing in existence will be written through your limited lens. Okay?
We see this now in mainstream media with the epidemic of self-insert characters, whether it's video game makers creating or changing characters to look just like them, or limited because all the author has done with it is presented in some limited form the contents not of his or her own mind, but of his or her limited specific emotional or
Yeah, that's all writing in existence.
sexual fantasy land. We see this now in mainstream media with the epidemic of self-insert characters, whether it's
That's a stretch.
video game makers creating or changing characters to look just like them, or Rebecca Yarros writing a Mary Sue heroine who has
Mary Sue. God, I hate that word. I hate this word, Mary Sue, because people have been abusing it. Rebecca Yarros says it's been comforting to see readers relate to chronic illness representation in. What's wrong with that?
has the same medical condition she has. Or a lesbian author making all of its video game makers creating or changing characters to look just like them, or Rebecca Yarros writing a Mary Sue heroine who has the same medical condition she has.
How can a person be a Mary Sue if they have a medical condition? Isn't a Mary Sue supposed to be a perfect character that goes through no struggle?
Or a lesbian author making all of her sapphic heroines the most powerful, brilliant, wisest characters in the story. Of course, you're more than welcome to, as they say, write what you know, but this isn't that. People
Isn't it?
who indulge in this self-identity in their fiction are doing so partly out of that self-indulgence and that overall inflated sense of self-importance, but it also has to do with the entire attitude towards identity in fan fiction.
Oh, okay. What is the attitude towards identity in fiction?
Not only are writers expected to put self-insert characters in one form or another into their stories, they are also just as often altering existing characters to more closely resemble themselves.
Okay, give me an example then. Shoot me with an example.
As in, for example, lesbian writers who make fan fiction in which the canon straight female characters are in a lesbian relationship.
Oh no. How horrible. Translation. They insert wokeness into my existing canon, and that's bad.
Such as Arwen and Eowyn. Of course, if the writer isn't a lesbian, this might not be as well received by the readers. This goes further, too, with really hot-button social issues being inserted into fan fiction.
Oh yeah, inserting wokeness. Translation.
Such as HIV. Writing such a story while not actually being HIV positive yourself is something of a fanfiction faux pas. A strange phenomenon of fanfiction is the unwritten, soft rule that you can't write what you aren't. This extends to disabilities, diseases, and various specific sexual orientations and gender identities and so forth. If that isn't you, then writing it dominantly in your story isn't always entirely permissible.
That's not true. That's bullshit. It's not about the person writing it and not being able to write about certain things. It's about being able to represent it well through their writing. Okay, it's not about not misrepresenting the thing in the writing. That is the only issue, okay? It's not about who writes. It's about how they write it. Pretty simple, no?
Who aren't, say, Black or Hispanic will get in trouble nowadays for writing books with characters who are. Just another example of fan fiction helping.
That's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. There are dime a dozen of good works that are appreciated, that are written by non-black authors that have black characters in them, and everything's fine. That is an absolute lie.
To change the rules. How? Because
It's more like anti-woke hacks cry about black characters being inserted into works as forced.
Because fan fiction, given its insane popularity and its ever-growing readership, forms readers. These readers then go forth.
Crayon Wannabe says, I think she was on Tumblr in 2012, 2015 when a bunch of teenagers, myself included, had dumb discourses about this, and this was a take, but even then most people were like, no.
In droves on Twitter and Goodreads and make demands and demonstrate outrage and whatever else. Publishers, producers, and writers listen and then bend the knee. And every single...
Again, bend the knee. This is just the most lazy anti-woke language possible.
Time a writer apologizes or changes a book, the fan fiction fed mob grows stronger, and the legitimacy of this fan fiction way of thinking...
It's all about culture, cancel culture, the evilness of wokeness.
...about literature and storytelling grows exponentially. Why do they do it? Well, I'm sure the troll...
Or they.
...types in their parents' basements just get off on the power. But some of them, a lot of them, absolutely insist that literature and stories look like them. Now, placing oneself squarely and centrally in the text is a natural, normal thing for someone who grew up reading stories in which other authors were placing themselves in the text. And
okay, give examples. Don't be a coward.
Who grew up reading by inserting themselves into fan fiction stories, plain, blank slate main characters who were written specifically so that the reader could use that character as an avatar of sorts.
Okay, give me examples. For God's sakes, give me examples. Okay? God forbid I read a story when a trans man exists. How self-centered of me, true.
If the emotional mind of the reader has been programmed to insert itself into the head of the main characters, then such a reader will obviously write their own characters also as self-inserts. For instance, did you know...
Okay, there you go. Okay, thank you. For God's sake. I'm tired of just hearing vague bullshit all the time without any elaboration.
That there is an entire subgenre of fan fiction that is written in second person. These are stories in which the assigned ship, that is the written relationship in the story, is the main character plus the reader. So if it's Marvel fan fiction, the story ship might be Bucky Barnes and the reader. That is, you walk into the room, you see, I don't know, Bucky Barnes sitting on the couch in your living room. He says, "You sure look pretty in that dress, although I would never..."
Oh no, there are different things written on the internet, and I'm offended by it, like, the existence of those things. Okay, this point is so stupid that I don't even know if I should entertain it.
Objectify a woman, as you know. That kind of thing.
Okay, great. Now I know that a certain type of fiction exists. What's your point? What is the point of this?
It's very, very, very popular.
Okay.
Who do you suppose is the most important main character for writers and readers of stories like this?
What are these really weird reaction shots?
It's not even remotely...
Why the fuck is this YouTuber and like... And that's a shot in the video. For some reason, this has to be included. This weird reaction shot of sipping a drink. This is just annoying when it repeats every couple of minutes for no reason. Dare I say, self-indulgent.
Surprising that all across media now, writers and artists are inserting themselves into their stories. Why wouldn't they? That's how they engage.
This is just such a blanket statement. What do you mean across the media? You couldn't give me even a single example.
Stories by inserting themselves into them, or even altering existing characters to become them. That's how fan fiction has trained them and the rest of society now to think it is supposed to be. So yes, of course they're shaped.
Yes, the social engineering of writing. That is such
shamelessly making video game characters who look just like them. Of course, they're making their main characters have the exact
This
same.
is just culture war nonsense. This video is culture war nonsense. None of it is serious.
Illnesses or
None of it is serious literature analysis. This person does not care about books.
disabilities or personality as they do. All of this is the most natural thing in the world to a fan fiction reader and writer. Let's take a moment now to talk about the one thing about fan fiction that everyone, especially those not in the community, most associate with fan fiction.
She's actually just Lady Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro. I think she's just Lady. She's a wannabe Lady Jordan Peterson, actually, in my opinion, with her postmodernist nonsensical argumentation.
Smut. A lot of people took issue with my joking comment comparing sites like AO3 to OnlyFans, saying, no, there are non-sexual fan fictions. That's just incredibly dishonest and horrible. Seriously, you would not believe the number of messages I got scolding me about this. But here's the thing they apparently missed.
Oh no, the messages oh, poor you. Let me pour you another drink so that you can drown your sorrows. I feel so bad for you.
OnlyFans has a non-explicit user base. 20% of OnlyFans users are not NSFW, and that number is going up. Yet if a lady said to you, yeah, I have an OnlyFans, my guess is the first thing you think of is not going to be a cooking channel.
What the fuck does that have to do with fanfiction? OnlyFans?
It or not, fanfiction has exactly the same reputation. If I was being
No, it doesn't. No, it does not.
extremely generous, I could say that 20% of fanfiction isn't smut of the strict observance. Let's put aside stories with random sex scenes and all that very extreme emotional onanism of hurt, comfort, etc.
Oh no, random sex scenes in fiction. That makes it smut.
I would also like to point out that a lot of writers and readers think that as long as the scene doesn't involve, how to put this?
It's like I'm listening to a religious zealot who, by the way, was complaining earlier about authors not willing to engage in problematic or uncomfortable topics.
The plug going into this socket, then it's not.
What the fuck? Penis going into vagina, okay? Your monetization is not that precious.
Smut. So the characters can do all the other stuff, and there's a solid chance it won't get labeled sexual or explicit.
What the fuck is this Puritanism? Spencer's Choice, Destiny reference? You know.
So okay, let's give them 20% non-sexual content, just like OnlyFans. Yet, when you talk about fanfiction in a crowded room, the vast majority of people in
What the fuck's happening? This person cried about the never growing up little fanfiction kids that just want attention on social media, and now she's censoring herself for that social media clout from YouTube. Rayun wannabe. She's a homeschooled American. Of course, she's a weird little Puritan freak. Wait, this person is homeschooled? Actually? This person is actually homeschooled? That explains so much, actually. That explains so much. You kind of, that explains so much, actually. Yes, she actually says she spent 2 years in public school. God.
room will think primarily
a lot of homeschooling. A lot of homeschooling in the US is just very, very harmful. Very, very harmful. I can understand the purpose of homeschooling in certain instances, but it should be very curated. It should adhere to a very specific minimum standard. And in a lot of cases, it does not. It creates people like this.
Smut and probably assume that that smut is pretty perverted. Here's the reality. Regardless of how many truly, genuinely non-sexual fanfiction works there may be out there, the specific nature of the smut that has deluged bookstores in recent years is the direct offspring of fanfiction smut.
I have no idea what this person refers to when she says smut, because she just mentioned any sex scene whatsoever constitutes smut. At which point I just tune out and I'm not taking any of this seriously. Gray Yon Wannabe. I'm not anti-homeschooling, but in the US, most of the time it's religious zealots who don't want their kids to be exposed to the world. At a very early stage of my education, I was homeschooled for a little bit. You know? I was homeschooled for a really, really short while at the very beginning. I don't even remember why that was the case. I just don't remember. And the homeschooling basically worked like this. I had a teacher coming from the public school system with a very specific curriculum that they had to do with me. That is what homeschooling is in Poland. That you have teachers that teach at normal schools going to the home of the kids and teaching them at home. That is homeschooling. And I've had that for a little bit. Polyphonica. Romance has always been spicy. That didn't start from fanfiction. Gray Yon Wannabe. I have no trans kids who are homeschooled because of violence they faced at public schools. It can be necessary and should be way more regulated than it is. But yeah, of course. And there are people that, for example, have health issues, right? There are people that have health issues and just expose themselves to risk by, for example, engaging in education in a regular classroom. And in that case, yeah, I would perfectly understand why a choice would be, hey, maybe this better for this person that, for example, right now in their life have a very sensitive immune system, why they might need to be educated at home. Perfectly reasonable, but you need certain rules when it comes to how this homeschooling is conducted. But I'm not on principle, oh, never homeschooling, never. You know, there are ways to do things. There are ways to do things. It's never a hard rule, never this, never that. There are always solutions to everything. There's always a way to make things work, if that makes sense. Unlike this person, I don't think that there is a single correct way of doing things that always works for everybody across the board and has to be brainlessly just enforced. But when homeschooling is a religious mom deciding to just keep their kid at home and teaching that evolution is fake, then, you know, I take issue with that, if that makes sense.
Which is to say that fan fiction is directly responsible for that phenomenon.
I don't even know what phenomena that is. She means romance books that have sex scenes and maybe some erotica, probably, I don't know. Romance has always been spicy.
Do you remember what I said about Harry
And I'll also hate the cringy sign tapping. It's overused.
Potter, that it was the series that launched 1,000 ships? The reality, at least here in the West, I'm not sure about the East, is that shipping is the core function and draw of writing and reading fan fiction. This was always true. But
No, that has not always been true. That's also bullshit.
Potter sent the popularity of shipping in fanfiction to heights never before seen in the West. Everyone
the fall of Western culture.
very, very strong opinions about how the maturing young adult characters they had grown up with should pair up. Should Harry be with Hermione or Ginny or Luna or Ron? Should Ron and Hermione really get together, or should it be Hermione and Harry, or Hermione and Draco, and so on forever? The primary original function of fanfiction in the current age was always shipping, which means that at the very least fanfiction is intrinsically romantic, but also is often just as intrinsically sexual. As you can see from this random story I've pulled up on AO3, the major concerns are fandom, relationship category, that is it male-male, female-female, male-female, etc., and of course, the ships. If you take the inherently self-indulgent nature of the fanfiction community, combine that with the inherently romantic nature of fanfiction in general, and then combine that with the extremely permissive and shame-averse nature of modern society, you'll get a perfect storm of cultural and psychological conditions that will result in a whole host of young writers, especially young female writers, indulging every imaginable sexual fantasy in their fanfiction writing. This ranges from simple sex scenes involving canon couples to wildly, wildly disturbing torture and abuse stories that are hundreds of thousands.
Okay, abuse and torture stories. Again, this person cried that authors who are woke will not engage in problematic subject matter. And now suddenly, again, once again, this person is crying about problematic subject matter. Again.
Thousands of words long that include themes that are so insanely
Greater End says, a bill to authorize firing squads for execution in Indiana House. Wait, what does that have to? Wait, why did you write this, Greater End? That's a bit random. But sexual violence. Oh, write it to me in DMs, or maybe send me an article about it and I'll cover it on the politics bit. Also, I'm just against the death penalty in general, so. Crayon, I'm just pretty amazed that the US still has that, but whatever. The Crayon wannabe, but sexual violence is the same thing as sexual degeneracy. Is the same thing as gay, as the same thing as woke. Yeah, I know. I've noticed that seems to be the case in this person's mind.
Horrifying and perverted that I literally can't show them to you. Let me put it to you this way. I've done all the dark romantasy, you know, the Haunting Adeline and Dead Inside, and yet I was still somehow shocked and disturbed by what I found on AO3.
There you go. Oh, why won't authors engage in uncomfortable subject matter? I was so disturbed when I wrote. What the fuck? This is contradictory. This is literally contradictory.
Which stories, by the way, were not obscure works tucked deep in the bowels of the site. These were stories with millions of views. A lot of the best-selling authors we see on the shelves of bookstores these days are merely smutty fan fiction imports. Twilight was Harry Potter fan fiction, then E.L. James wrote Twilight fan fiction that became 50 Shades of Grey. Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments series is also Harry Potter fan
Olifanica says, right, she wants uncomfortable subject matter, but also wants a pro-shame culture around writing. Yeah, exactly.
fiction. Ali Hazelwood's The Love Equation is Star Wars fan fiction, in which Rey and that emo bratty edgelord are the shipped relationship, and so on and so on and so on forever. And many
Rayon wannabe. Also, apparently, she specifically sought out "Don't eat the dead dog" or whatever, which is a tag literally saying, "Hey, no, for real, this is fucked up stuff." Yeah.
Of the romantasy and romance writers who are big today will proudly talk about how they came up in fan fiction. Given the nature of fan fiction, what's popular, what gets hits, and what doesn't, Most of these writers clearly learned the law of the fanfiction jungle and applied that to their literary pursuits. And that meant maximum smut equals maximum sales. And because fanfiction readers are also book readers, that actually works, sadly.
So, yeah, so it's just smut according to a highly religious Puritanism view. Thank you. That's great.
And in the fanfiction jungle, what makes a story popular? Incorporating a popular ship? Yeah. Incorporating a popular and slightly unique twist on a trope, such as the alternate universe trope? Okay, maybe. Appealing to a particular subset of fanfiction readers, such as the hurt comfort crowd? Possibly. But if you want to take the easy road, all you really have to do is pack in a lot of sex. Many commenters and some people who sent me messages regarding my romantasy video a while back told me personal anecdotes of how they tried to write stories that didn't have sex in them and got like no hits and no readers. And then one little micro story with an explicit
Oh no, sex in stories. Oh no, such smut. And this person talks about people never growing up, by the way. This person talks about people being forever children when she's so appalled by stories integrating sex in it. Okay, sure. It's those fan fiction writers that are the immature ones, right? When you're so afraid of sex, so terrified of having sex in stories. Great.
Scene was 100 times more popular almost overnight. And as we already discussed in that video, once you start to feed that hunger, it grows. On the screen right now, I have a list of some of the tags on AO3 as well as the number of stories that include that tag. This gives you an idea of what I mean when I say feeding the hunger makes it grow. There are more details about this on my website. Because I try to take research very seriously, I've tried to...
I doubt that you're taking research very seriously.
Read a few less extreme of these stories I thought probably weren't going to be all that bad. You know, after what I read when I did my research for the romantasy video. Let's just say my recovery is ongoing. If you ever want to lose all hope in the future of humanity and the literary world, go to the AO3.
Very Wannabe says, such a weird take. Once you indulge in your sexual desires, it turns into addiction. Holy repression, Batman.
3 tag, dead dove, do not eat. Actually, no, don't do that. I did that and it didn't take very long to start feeling nauseous and incredibly disturbed and depressed. Sometime later, I happened to see a thread on one of the AO3 forums complaining about members of the fanfiction community who found that particular tag's contents too disturbing. If you don't like it, don't read it, they said. And also, golly, it's like we can't have anything bad happen to our characters. Sure, yes, if you don't like it, don't read it. But
oh my god, now this person is directly contradicting what she was saying for the first 20 minutes. Oh, those authors will just not engage in uncomfortable stuff. And now she's gonna be ranting about how the authors engage in too much uncomfortable stuff.
it's hard to see the things that are in there and not become incredibly concerned about the people writing and reading those stories.
Oh my fucking god, literally it went from authors will never engage in problematic or things that will get you cancel content, but then it's those authors just indulge in so much uncomfortable content that it makes me worried for them and disturbed. Which is it? Which is it?
It's one thing to have bad things happen to your characters. No one's complaining about that.
Yes, you are. You are complaining about it right now.
It's a whole separate issue if you're writing stories that are intended for sexual gratification.
How do you know that?
That features so much inhumane brutality that the CIA is probably up on those tags taking notes. And don't
Oh my fucking god. This is just such incoherent messaging.
even get me started on all of the underage content. Seriously, you will have to drink heavily if you even start to look around on AO3. And also then you see the number of hits those things get and you start to have thoughts like, how hard would it be to just delete the entire internet?
Stop with these reaction shots. You're just padding.
The perversion factor, as with adult content across the board, intensifies over time. We've already talked about this a lot in my video on smut, but the same applies. However, because sites like AO3 are built on absolute permissiveness, as I'm sure you can imagine, it's about 1,000 times worse. As bad as some published dark romance books truly are, they are as tame as Mary Poppins compared to what you can effortlessly find on AO3.
Oh no.
And all of this increasingly weird and increasingly perverted stuff is all filtering through to the mainstream. All these weird monster and animal perverted stuff is all
Oh my god, it's all about the anti-woke puritanism, isn't it?
filtering through to the mainstream. All
Tiffany Roberts ensnared.
these weird
It's just puritanism. Ice Planet Barbarians.
monster and animal
The Dragon's Bride.
smut books like Morning Glory, Milking Farm, those trends started in fan fiction. And because, as we can clearly see from the aforementioned literary masterpiece, fan fiction now feeds popular literary culture. It will only be a matter of time before the most disturbing thing I saw in Dead Dove Do Not Eat is sitting happily on the shelf at your local bookstore.
Oh no. Oh wow. Your personal sensibilities will be offended by a book. The Western civilization is ending as we know it.
Smut in fan fiction is a world with literally no rules. Sure, yes, you are still expected to provide content warnings, and people will prefer more popular ships and so forth like that. But in truth, there are no rules. This is deliberately and explicitly stated by AO3. Nothing is forbidden. Smut with underage characters? Perfectly fine. Smut that would make the
Polyphonica says no one tell her about the furry community.
Marquis de Sade super jealous that he didn't think of it first? Why not? You want to write incredibly perverted stories about real people transforming into minors and having lots of sex? Totally, yeah. If you want to
Does this person know about Stephen King? Does this person know that one of the most famous authors is Stephen King?
be only mildly disturbed, have a glance at how many fan fiction stories
Stephen King did not start as a fanfic or was not, I don't think, inspired by fan fiction.
there are about real people. If you look at the numbers, currently on AO3, there are more fan fiction
I think one of our favorite books is a Stephen King one. Oh, that's ironic, considering it exists.
about real people than there are about Harry Potter.
That's ironic.
If a man did that about a real woman, it would get him fired from his job, shunned by his family, and would probably be sufficient grounds for a restraining order, depending on the laws of the state in which it happened. And it would absolutely be included in the court documents as People's Exhibit A in the stalking case against him.
Stephen King it.
But when a woman does it, apparently it's empowering and creative. I don't know, Your Honor. Sounds like fanfic brain rot to me. Something I want to talk about related to the smutpocalypse is a topic that never seems to get any less strange to me, and that is BL. BL is short for boys love. It's gay romance, almost always gay smut, between two male characters, which has a disproportionately large female audience. Of course, BL is a little different from any other run
Oh my god. Homophobia now? Really?
the mill gay storyline. This particular hyper-specific subgenre got its start in Japan. Thanks, Japan. Its earliest form was
Thanks, Japan, for normalizing degeneracy. Thanks, Japan. Wow. How horrible.
surprise, surprise, fanfiction. Specifically, fanfiction written by straight women featuring two young men, usually exceptionally beautiful young men, not so much masculine as somewhat androgynously beautiful. If you've ever wondered why so many romantasy writers refer to their male leads as beautiful men, one of these beautiful
Oh no. Men who are feminine looking, engage in gay sex. How horrible.
men is the, how should we put this? Submissive.
How should I put this? The embarrassing puritanism is not cute, okay? This sort of thing is not cute, okay? This is just pathetic and sad. All right.
half of these beautiful men is the how should we put this? Submissive half of the
He's huge.
relationship, while the other retains a more traditionally dominant masculine role in the relationship, if you get what I'm saying.
So, normal dynamics that exist within sexual relationships. Thank you. Again, this person was crying that our current generation never grows up while talking about sexual matters in such a childish way. Fuck me. This person has the gall of judging whether or not other people ever grow up. I don't know. How should I put this? That you have those dynamics when one person is more submissive. How should I say? And other is more dominant. What is this?
Needless to say, this has a tremendously
What the hell is this?
loyal female fan base bordering on feral. This is books, comics and manga, anime, and live-action dramas.
Okay. Gay people exist. Incredible discovery. And gay romance exists. Incredible.
BL as a genre sees its popularity fed by fan fiction, particularly gay shipping fan fiction, which in turn feeds the popularity of BL. This is
Okay. What exactly is supposed to be wrong here? What exactly am I supposed to take from here? Why am I supposed to be shocked by here? Like, what's happening?
constant loop that has led to an explosion of popularity in the East and the West. While Japanese live-action BL hasn't really grown all that much, Thai BL has absolutely exploded in recent years. And in Eastern and especially Western viewership, the main audience for BL is, as I said, overwhelmingly female. I was made aware of the existence of this subgenre when I first started to develop an interest in Eastern media as opposed to modern Western media. And when it comes to Western popularity, BL is the subgenre of Eastern media, books, manga, dramas, etc., that is enormously popular with women. Most Western women I've come across who watch Eastern media include a huge amount of BL in the rotation. With, it seems, the majority of female fans, that's the popular Eastern media here in the West. They read BL novels and comic translations, and they heavily ingest BL and gay shipping fanfiction. In fact, if you go to Barnes & Noble and have a little browse through their translated Chinese novels section, I would bet you folding money that you wouldn't be able to find one that isn't BL. In fact, my efforts to find unofficial fan translations of published novels...
Okay, I still don't see what's supposed to be so negative about this. Grayun wannabe. It's almost like there's statistically more women attracted to men than men attracted to men.
from Japan and China has turned up an interesting issue in the Western fan community for Eastern media. The majority of what you'll find fan translated...
Okay, let's get to the point, okay? Don't drag this out any longer. What's wrong with this, okay? Is it because you have gay men in your fiction? Gay degeneracy is entering mainstream writing? What the hell? What's wrong with this?
Is either explicitly BL or it can be interpreted as BL. That is, either fans ship the main male characters so hard that to them it's actually canon, or the novel was deliberately written to be very ambiguous in that regard. And the quality of the works does not matter, provided emotional or sexual needs are satisfied by the story. So people who are apparently more like me and just want to find a good book tend to lament this fact, saying,
What the fuck does that mean? Just want to find a good book. Good book being a meaningless statement once again. Polyphonica, does she bring up hentai which is consumed by mostly men? Or are we just demonizing women who read comics? No, we're not. It's not even about demonizing women in my mind. It's about demonizing homosexuality, actually.
that no one ever translates any Eastern novel unless it's BL, or one could say BL coded. I've heard this called BL brain rot. Speaking of which, recently,
Why is it brain rot? Why the fuck is it brain rot? Is it because it's gay? It's two men having sex, so it's brain rot?
I got a comment on my video on romanticism.
A book that features two men loving each other cannot be good now?
I tried to find it to show you, but after 3 hours of hunting, my eyeballs were about to fall out of my head. This comment was calling me a hypocrite for being critical of the explosion of smut in literature considering the book I was writing. Referring to my serial novel, The Blue Prince. Given that there aren't any sex scenes in my book I was writing. Hypocrite for being critical of the explosion of smut in literature considering the book I was writing. Referring to my serial novel, The Blue Prince.
We have to look into this person's novel, The Blueprints. Please remind me. That's her novel, right? The Blueprints. Usually the people that are like this are shitty writers themselves. So I really I am very tempted to look into this person's writing.
Given that there aren't any sex scenes in my book, I was really confused about this for a while. But then like 2 days later, it finally hit me. The commenter was assuming that my book is gay smut simply because the two main characters are both young men. A very alarming majority of these works have strange dynamics. The more dominant masculine character tends to be older or at least larger, often much older or much larger, and also tends to lack any sense of consent or boundaries. The more submissive character is often younger, or in the comics and shows, he at least appears younger and less experienced, and sometimes doesn't even start entirely gay. Not always, but often. Even if there isn't such a dynamic, as in the enormously popular Thai BL kin.
Oh my god, this is so pathetic. Tell me you don't understand sex without telling me you don't understand sex. Tell me you're sheltered as fuck without telling me. Oh my god. Really? Really?
Porsche, the relationship often begins with sexual violence. In the case of Kin Porsche, the series and the novel, one male lead literally sexually assaulted the other while he was—
Oh yeah, so let's self-censor.
drugged, which led to his, I guess, gay awakening or something. I don't know. I don't really go here. Just as gay shipping fanfiction created BL in the first place and saw publishers create it as its own genre marketed specifically to women, the spread and growth of BL has caused fanfiction hunger to—
You know what? I'm gonna defend some things, okay? I'm actually gonna say that engaging in certain problematic things in fiction, and this is a thing that the person was crying that authors don't do, allows for the exploration of certain themes that are not good in a safe environment. There you go. I said it, okay? God. This person is so stupid. I don't even know.
grow, especially for the shipping of canon straight male characters, which in
Oh no, how dare you ship those two fictional characters that in this instance are straight and then you make them gay. Oh gosh, you've crossed a line.
turn feeds the popularity of BL.
You've crossed
and
the
so
line.
on, in an endless loop. The BL fandom tends to bring about the most intense, mentally ill, fanatical behavior from fans.
Oh my god. There you go. It all goes to degeneracy. It all goes to anti-wokeness. It all goes to how dare you be abnormal.
Have stalked their favorite BL actors, which suggests very overtly, if I'm being honest, that the infatuation is sexual in nature. And as is often the case with women, sexual infatuation very, very often must include a strong emotional element, which is why the story doesn't even need to be sexually explicit to satisfy a female fan's emotional needs. This is why Chinese titles like The Untamed have a frankly disturbingly enormous fanatical following. The original novel, The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, was written as a BL, with
This
the
person is just a purist that hates emotion, I guess.
author later providing wildly explicit, often disturbing scenes that sometimes featured underage characters. It was so popular that China produced a live-action drama. I've seen the live-action Chinese drama. It's a little lacking in quality, but in terms of story, it's actually quite good. The dynamic between the two characters was changed to a friendship instead of a romance, and the change did make the story significantly less self-indulgent and allowed
Why? Why did it make the story less indulgent if they're not gay? Yeah, indulgence is when homosexuality exists. This is just ridiculously stupid.
it to focus on the rest of the plot, which is a lot more interesting than what may or may not have been happening between these two dudes and that sword in the bedroom.
This is just homophobia. This is just not very well hidden homophobia, unironically. Oh no, they're not gay anymore. The story is so much better because of it. Why? Why?
However,
Yeah, you're so disturbed about two men doing things in the bedroom. Am I supposed to even treat this seriously at all? This commentary. She's making such disgusted faces. Those two men in the bedroom.
However, fans of the original novel inserted their own needs into the live action, interpreting the interaction between even the actors as romantic, even when they weren't in character. Fan fiction writers in the West and the East started to write explicit smut fan fiction about the two real actors, Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo. In one case, a
Oh no. No, she's a deeply unserious person, I've noticed.
Chinese fanfiction writer on AO3 penned a long series that infamously culminated in Wang Yibo impregnating a much younger and obviously feminized Xiao Zhan, who worked as an underage prostitute. This created such a shocked uproar in China that, among many other things, the Chinese access to AO3 was blocked. And still is as of filming this video. And it became illegal to write such works or make art.
Yeah, guess what? There are books that explore child prostitution. Okay? I'm sorry, you're gonna be the person to cry about exploring uncomfortable subjects, or rather author is not doing it, and then you're gonna cry when a book explores child exploitation? Really? One of the very famous books, which was actually just a retelling of a very real story, was We Children from the Zoo train station, a German book. Oh, thank you, Polyphonics, for the $30. Thank you so much for the $30. That helps me a ton, okay? That helps me a ton in my fundraising effort. Like, the very famous book that I read, I actually read it very early in my life, is We Children from the Zoo Station. It's a German book about children, about a girl that was growing up in the 70s, Germany, Berlin. It's a real story. The girl really exists. She's a grown-up now. And she, due to circumstances of her life, of her family, of the environment that she lived in, of the society that she grew up in, became addicted to drugs, and then went to child prostitution to get money for those drugs. That was a real story that really happened. And I'm sorry, there are books that are gonna explore these things. It happens. The book ends with her going to sort of fighting her addiction, but that's, Books explore these subjects also of child exploitation, of child prostitution. It will happen.
About real people or about underage characters. That latter part is kind of hard to get mad about, if I'm being honest. This is the kind of garbage that flourishes in the minds of writers who do nothing but indulge their desires and appetites and have never been told that such indulgences might not always be healthy or normal. But fan fiction is a
See, it's not about really exploring themes. It's about what's healthy or normal. It's not about really exploring or not exploring difficult or uncomfortable subjects. For her, an uncomfortable subject is praising Elon Musk in a book for his business.
hugely permissive
That's the uncomfortable subject being tackled by an author, and not self-indulgence at all.
community that rewards perversion disproportionately. It's not even
There you go. It's about perversion. We reward perversion and not self-excellence.
remotely surprising that these things and these tastes grow and grow there. Now, this whole thing with China blocking AO3 has a million tendrils, and some of them are from the totalitarian absolute state control Communist Party side of things, yeah, and that's not great. And I have more about this whole thing on my website, but some of the Chinese outrage came more from the traditional healthy Chinese culture side of things that thought it was pretty messed up that children were being permitted ready access to wildly graphically explicit material about underage characters who were sometimes even real people. And I don't think any sane person would disagree with such a sentiment. What to do about it is an entirely different matter.
Okay, access to certain age groups to certain types of writing has nothing to do with the quality of the writing itself. So this person is just confused as to what this video is supposed to be about at this point.
To start with, it would sure help if parents paid closer attention to what their children were doing online. But that's a topic for another video.
Fuck me with these reaction shots. God, I hate them.
Something I came to see a lot as I explored the world of fanfiction was that whenever issues like this arose, that is, the worryingly large and growing amount of underage material on fanfiction sites like AO3, it was always met with widespread condemnation. That is, whenever anyone tried to say something along the lines of, hey, so maybe we should do something about all the insane underage material on
Okay, that also is a completely separate topic from fan fiction as a whole, ruining writing and everything else. That's not a problem that is exclusive to fan fiction.
this site, people would condemn that person with so much vitriol and violence, screaming about censorship and oppression and fascism and all the rest of it. To all the fanfiction apologists out there, this is a huge, huge PR problem for you. If the majority of your community would die on this of all hills, maybe it's time to...
Yeah, because fan fiction, as we all know, as all writing, is just a single blob of like-minded hive mind people, right? It's just like all book authors are the same, right? This is just brainless. And once again, we enter the brainless analysis moment.
take stock of what your community is, what it feeds, and what grows there. I'm really excited to see all the people bellying up to my comment section to drop some variation on fiction does not equal reality. Let me say it again. I don't really care. The fact that the fanfiction community has, since its inception, taken it upon themselves to defend...
Ray Young Wannabe says, I don't trust her characterization of these things. Is it smut or is it narratives of sexual violence? How are we drawing these lines? And how are those narratives presented? Which is also a pretty important thing. How are these narratives presented?
defend to the death this kind of writing is really, really worrying.
I don't know what kind of writing. You haven't given any examples whatsoever of the writing itself. So I don't even know what kind of writing you're talking about. I don't know.
And one can't help but wonder if this constant indulgence in these BLs and underage fan fictions with increasingly disturbing
Also notice the conflation of two consenting men having sex with underage material just here. Interesting.
consent issues and age gaps and the underage factor is perhaps a contributing factor in the apparent uptick in sexual crimes against young teenage boys.
There you go. Gay sex in fiction contributes to sex violence, to sex crimes. Brilliant analysis, brilliant conclusions.
being committed by adult women. The numbers for these crimes these days are honestly very alarming. If indulging the emotional and sexual needs
And now we enter the conspiracy theory moment of this video. No evidence, no data, no stats, just conflating homosexuality with pedophilia, because that's what's happening here. And then going to the conclusion, and that all leads to women assaulting young boys. There we have it. There we have it.
on the page is permissible, then eventually the idea will enter the reader's mind that it must also be desirable in some form or other in real life.
Of course. Amazing argument. It's just self-justified and self-evident. No need to.
38-year-old woman who attempted to sleep with a group of young teenage boys in a hotel while her husband was in their own room told the boys that they should be excited to be sleeping with an older woman. Sorry, Your Honor, that sounds like fan fiction brain rot to me. BL or
Yeah, of course. Pedophiles exist, therefore fan fiction is to blame. This is your intellectual. This is your intellectual on fan fiction and on writing in general. What the fuck is this argument?
not, people can argue all day long that, oh, it's just fiction. Oh, we know it's just a story. We're not delusional. But if the whole function of fan fiction is to satisfy the need for self-representation and to see the self in the work, then
I'm sorry, you just say that. You saying this stuff does not make it true.
must radiate outward. If the self that you see and are satisfied by in the work of fiction brings you intense pleasure, then you will eventually feel the desire to embody that fantasy in reality, whether it's
Holy shit. There we have it. Yeah, female readers that read about gay men having sex would secretly want to be men and have sex with men. They all secretly want to transition and be trans men, actually. Sure. Ray Yon Wannabe, we're hearing more about pedophiles who are women now because society is very begrudgingly acknowledging that women are in fact capable of being the perpetrators of sexual violence. Yeah, I know. I know how media reports on women assaulting minors. It's not teacher assaulted a student. It's usually teacher had sex with a student. Teacher and student, woman teacher and student slept together. I noticed the language around this. Pseudo-Freudian slop, yeah.
seeking a girlfriend or boyfriend who abuses you or becoming abusive yourself. On a long enough timeline, it always happens. It's worth remembering that studies
It is also the fanfiction equivalent of violence in video games will lead to violence in real life. Just, you know, more puritanical bullshit.
have found that what we read tends to inform our opinions, our attitudes, and our behavior, especially in young people. So if a 16 or 18-year-old girl is reading fan fiction with really disturbing content that is meant...
Again, the same person was crying about authors not willing to explore controversial themes.
to be sexually gratifying, it will have an impact of some kind on her character and her perception of the world. If you're curious about this, I have links to a lot of studies on this topic on my website. On AO3 alone, the number of fan fiction stories that feature underage pairings is over 360,000. These stories have hundreds of thousands of hits. The top one has over 4 million. And bear in mind that this is only works for which the writer has chosen to tag. Many writers choose not to and simply have content warnings, which can't be searched. There were many instances when I used the tagging system to exclude underage pairing and still got ships like Hermione Granger and Sirius Black or Severus Snape, or Petunia and Vernon Dursley and Harry Potter. Honestly, just so much Harry Potter. At a certain point, you have to wonder what feeds that interest and what feeds that creation. All right, enough about smut already. Okay then, the final point we're going to talk about today is arguably the least important, but
Finally, oh my God.
it's still a thing that
What's
needs to be. The final point we're going to talk about
The decline in literary quality. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear about the decline of literary quality. Let's hear it.
today is arguably the least important, but it's still a thing that needs to be pointed out. I talked before about how many of the writers working today got their start.
I am now really tempted to look into this person's whole BS blueprints book. I am really, we're gonna see blueprints.
As fan fiction writers. The publishing industry will take the wildly popular fanfiction titles, which are, based on what I've found, always smutty ship fanfiction, and they file off the serial numbers, as they say, so it can be sold in bookstores. This is an old practice. The fact, as I said before, is that a huge percentage of newer popular writers, and pretty much any writer currently working to break into the industry, came up in fanfiction. That was their literary nursery. We now live in a world where the popular best-selling novelists did not come up reading great literature and studying history and philosophy and whatever else caught their interest. We live in a
I'm sure the second story grew up studying history, okay, and philosophy and literature. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case for this person. Hearing how she engages with the subject matter, okay? Yeah, I'm sure this person is just such a literary mind. Uh-huh.
world where all the popular storytellers came up on a steady diet of fan fiction and critical literacy. Their literary communities were
Critical literacy is bad.
the, AO3 subreddit and Tumblr and LiveJournal and Wattpad and all those fan forums that predated AO3. And within that insular echo chamber bubble, the only thing that mattered was the fan fiction community sensibilities. Quality of storytelling, as you and I and everyone with a modicum of literary sense understand it, is not even remotely relevant. Does the
I don't know what that means, and she will not elaborate whatsoever.
work evoke the right emotions? Does it comfort the reader in the right way? Does it tickle the edges of the most popular tastes and excitabilities, emotional or otherwise? Does it respect the abundance of rules and regulations that are part and parcel with fan fiction, such as trigger and content warnings? Is it socially appropriate, and are you, the writer, allowed to write about the themes in the story?
I'm sorry, you complain about the writers engaging in certain themes and stories. You're the purist here.